Good evening. Welcome back to United TV. I've got top quality guest with me today, Helgi. We're going to be talking about, and actually, it does seem to be. I'll just go very, very quickly, just show people some slides we got because it looks a bit like the journalists have gone through the alphabet and gone, right, today's Bournemouth. We're going to take their manager. We're going to put him on the shortlist, try and recruit him. We're going to get their defender that's out of contract in the summer, and we're going to get their striker as a backup as well. So I'm not going to say these are going to happen, but they do seem to be all linked in that. Do you remember last year we were talking about going to, I think it was actually going towards Brentford, and we were looking at Brentford. We were going to get their best player in Mbuemo. We were going to try and get their manager as well, according to some sources. And I think we got their chief operating officer as well. So we're going to be raiding Bournemouth, apparently, according to the news. But as everybody knows on this channel, we're going to be talking through these stories and getting your opinions as well. So to start with, we'll just be looking at, I suppose, these stories. And um, Helgi, what are you making of this so far? So Areola is going to leave Bournemouth. That's the one thing that is at least known. And David Ornstein was saying that. So that's a really credible source. We know that he was on, I don't really like to use the word shortlist when it contains almost every manager we know about, but there's so many managers
Long
linked.
list.
Yeah. What do you think? Because gradually, like Tuchel re-signed with England, we saw other managers sign extensions. We have seen like De Zerbi, Nagelsmann linked. We've seen so many, and I think with Areola, he's one that there's at least quite a lot of interest from other clubs. And I think the story I was looking at saying that now he's going to leave. There is like serious interest from possibly Liverpool, possibly Newcastle as well, and other teams, maybe Chelsea even also looking to replace their manager in the summer. So it's not a done deal, even if Manchester United want to get him. But how would you rate him in terms of? Because I think whenever I'm talking about a manager, my first view is right. What's the evidence he's better than Michael Carrick? Clearly, he's got some experience in the Premier League. And I think one thing that's quite positive is Bournemouth. They don't exactly back the manager, do they? They sell all the best players, and we saw them lose so many players like Houston, Kirkes, and you had Semenyo leaving, and Bournemouth still do play decent football considering the resources they got. But what's your initial reaction? So I'll say this: I think he's a good manager. I'm not saying we should definitely get him, but I'm not going to say he's used. I think he's done a good job where he is.
Yeah. Again, thank you for having me on. And like I said yesterday, and I'm going to say it, but it's so good to be back on the channel. Like not on camera. I mean, just that you are back, not me. Uh, and and for everyone in the chat, always like just because Rich he does the news, that doesn't mean that every time he does news about links, about players, because someone always like misconstrues that he is reading the news and telling about the news, that he believes every story. I just want to clarify, he doesn't. He is telling about the news. But
I'm honestly, I'm quite skeptical about a lot of the news, and I'm just putting it out there and saying,
yeah,
if Areola is linked, what's people's honest reaction? My first reaction is he's a good manager. If he's got options like Liverpool, though, is he gonna go for Man United? Are Manchester United at the moment just undecided? Because when you look at it, and I did see, just to put the other side of the story there, Michael Carrick, as far as we know, let's just make it a little bit bigger. Michael
oh,
Carrick, as far as we know, is the long-term plan. Nothing has changed according to like main sources.
I
And this
get to
this is
keep
kind
my
of like
hair.
where you have to look at it and say, as far as I'm concerned and you're concerned, we both think Michael Carrick's probably going to be in charge. But there's
Not
going to be,
probably.
yeah,
I've betted my hair. So
yeah, exactly, exactly. That's what people
but
think.
yeah, my thoughts on Irola and stuff is that first of all, I do think there's credibility to the story, like you say, and second of all, the second I saw the tweet about like Irola leaving, I didn't do this like literally, but I could almost start a timer. I was like, when I saw that news, the first thing that came to my mind was not what club is he going to go to, or whatever. The first thought was Irola to United story, and we are getting half of the Bournemouth squad. And it happened the same day. So I was expecting this. But I've thought about this since I saw it in the morning, and I've made up my mind what I think about Irola now. I don't think he'd ever work at United, because of one thing, and I think most of you guys or girls in the chat would agree with me. If you have seen post matches, and I know this will sound stupid, but just hear me out. In the post matches and stuff, I don't think his English is good enough. And I know that sounds stupid, but a big part of being that's like being a director for a big company like Pep, Klopp, Ferguson, like Mourinho, every manager that has been successful. You have to be able to communicate with the players. And I'm not saying he can't, but I'm just saying if I'm going to do an impression of him, it's like if we lose 3 games in a row and they ask like, what can be better? No, good play, sometime not good play. I don't think, and that's not me mocking him because I really rate him. I think he's really good. But I think when you're at United, and I think most people will agree, it's not just on the pitch and being a communicator. Like people have said things about Moyes when he was there, the way he spoke to the media. They have said things about Ten Hag, that he was like a bit autistic or whatever, like he's a bit weird in the media. And I think, although I hate it, it should be just about football. But if we lose 3 games and we had Emery or Iraola, for me, if it comes out, no, we go next week, good play, could do better, we not better next week. I feel myself being angry at that. And I think most people don't think about that. But when I thought about Iraola coming to United and we are going to have dips and stuff, it's really important in those moments to explain to us why it's going poor. So yeah, I really rate him. But if you don't agree with what I'm saying right now, I'll bet you that you would agree when we lose 3 games on the bounce and he's trying in a post match to explain, and it's very limited English. I think a big part of being a United manager is to be able to communicate, but also obviously be a good coach, which I think he is. But yeah, and also the last point I'm going to make is I'm not very sold on Carrick, but even I would be like, why not keep Carrick? And like, I think Iraola probably is a better manager than Carrick, but it's not like gigantic. And Carrick
I
has
was going to say the same thing. I think he's got more experience at obviously the Premier League level, and he's obviously had to work under. And I know a lot of the time I say, if you're going to be Manchester United manager, you've got to expect that we're not going to be, you're not going to get everything you want. For example, he had to use Agate. He hasn't got the best. We haven't got the squad options we need. And sometimes I think with Bournemouth and teams that are, they are good, but I think if Manchester United put in the sort of performances Bournemouth did, there'd be a lot of criticism over us because the expectation suddenly goes up. And I would be looking at Areola thinking, go to a team where there's tons of pressure. It's going to be, there's not a lot of scrutiny on Bournemouth, because I think lots of people look at Bournemouth where I'm not going, like Cody's like putting it in a way as well, where it's not like I say, okay, it's close to a free hit, isn't it?
very
Because if you
good
do well at Bournemouth,
comment.
people just expect Bournemouth to do badly. I think Bournemouth are a well-organised team. They got some good players. One thing I do like is the energy level at Bournemouth. There's something where I do think they get a lot right, but
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
get the impression that the if he went to Manchester United, I said this as well, that maybe he is a better manager than Michael Carrick, possibly, but it doesn't feel like levels, does it? It doesn't feel like you look at it and like when I
Yeah,
saw the story, I was like you, where you go, no, it's not. No, it's not as bad as some of the managers were linked to. But I would also be looking at it thinking, if you're Areola, do you want to jump to Manchester United because suddenly you're going to go from? It's difficult, isn't it? And I think he's would
yeah,
be a better fit than Glasner.
like you said, and we said, like in the early stages of Carrick thing at United, I've sort of, after Amorim, I've sort of reevaluate my thinking, and there's a pattern that I think Iraola is a better coach than Iraola is a better coach than Carrick at this moment in time. But I do think that being a United manager, how do I put this? I don't think
it's a different thing, isn't
okay.
it?
If we get the best tactical coach in the world, I don't think that helps. Like, I think Ten Hag and maybe, again, not maybe Amorim and stuff, but my point is, I think we don't need the best coach in the world, like tactically and like putting up. I don't think that's the problem, and it's never been the problem. I think the problem is stars being left on the bench that wants to start, players being miserable, dealing with the media. I think the manager job in United is different. Iraola has to like watch City, watch and like put up a tactical plan and do the football thing. A United manager almost has to like do everything but that, because he knows he has the players, he has to keep everyone happy, the fans, speak to the fans, the media. Like, imagine Iraola with his limited English, and that's not me putting him down. It's just, you do, if you play Champions League and the Premier League, so basically in 9 months you play every third day, and before every game you do MUTV pre-match, you do the press match conference, you do the post-match like right before the game, and for other channels, so let's say 5 before each game and then 5 after, at least. That's 10 for each game, so that's about 20 a week. Like, imagine how much he will be talking, and he is very poor. Like, every time I watch his post-match, I'm like, he's really bad at English. And I'm not saying that. So the reason I won't go for him is he's a very good tactical coach, and I don't want that at United anymore. I've been put off by that. I want a manager, not a that's a good way to put it, Rich. I don't want a coach. I want a manager, if you get what I mean. Someone to manage and
Yeah,
not
it's almost like, I
a
think
coach.
when we look at football, do you think modern football has slightly changed from how we
Yes,
watched it, say, 10
yes,
years ago? Where
yes,
10 years ago
yes.
we'd look at someone where maybe Alex Ferguson would now be a director of football, where he's pretty much organising everything. He is like making decisions. Like, everybody knows that Alex Ferguson would also be having a say in terms of which players he thinks we should sign. And to be honest, I think if Alex Ferguson was in modern football, he wouldn't be able to be the sort of manager that has a director of football above him. He'd want to be almost like the director of football role. And looking
Yeah,
at this, also one thing that Ryan mentions, and we said this yesterday as well. Michael Carrick has got something that a lot of people have never got. He's got,
yeah,
I think he understands some of the things at Manchester United, which kind of like gives him a bit more of a heads up. I don't know if well, I don't know if Areola would get eaten alive. I think it would be. I remember when Benjamin Sesko arrived at Old Trafford, he was kind of like taken aback by how big everything was, all the attention and the size of the club. And I think that sometimes as fans, you don't necessarily think about that because we're used to watching Manchester
yeah,
United, but it is huge, isn't it? And you could see like the expectation would be crazy. I think as fans, also, maybe it's this is kind of predictable in the media as well, isn't it? We were saying
yeah,
last night that Manchester United lost to Leeds. We're going to see stories. I thought we were going to see stories about Nagelsmann. We're seeing stories about Areola. We're seeing a lot of channels
yeah,
talk about this one. And a weird as a better is probably accurate as well in saying
yeah,
it's not just the defeat. Like, the nature of yesterday's defeat has opened up kind of this argument where, no, not necessarily myself, but I do see people on social media starting to that if they had views on Michael Carrick,
yeah. But
they're probably slightly changing a little bit.
I have to ask you something today, because I was thinking, like, we knew we were going on stream, and there was something, because I was a bit like, I wanted to put you on the spot for something today, but I didn't know
Go
why.
for it.
And
Yeah, go for it.
yeah, so I was thinking about one thing, and because I was thinking about, like, what do I think Rich is, because we agree on a lot of things, and sometimes when we don't agree, I kind of agree with you, even though I disagree. Like, for
Yeah,
example,
I
with the
think it's
press,
just that we're both quite good at constructing arguments.
for
So
example,
we're
with
kind of like,
the press conferences, which we have discussed, that I want, you have, with your point, convinced me, even though I disagree. I agree more with you on that. We need someone to put out fires and not to be exciting in press conferences. And that was a strong opinion of mine, and I've turned on that because of you. I agree with you because of your point. So sometimes we disagree, and then I'd be like, well, his point actually makes more sense than my own point, and I'm not stubborn at all. Like, if your point makes more sense than mine, I will turn on the day.
Yeah,
And
that's
so the point that I wanted to put
good.
to you, because I was thinking about what do I fundamentally disagree with Rich, and that's, I couldn't come up with anything. And the one thing I came up with was, I think you're too sure of Carrick, if that makes sense. So my point to you is, what if we lose the next 5 games? What will you still think we hire him? And the counter argument is, if we then win the next 5, then you would say, yeah, I'd give it to him. That kind of don't go with each other, because if you say, if we lose 5 games and you don't give it, but if we win 5 games you will win it, the sample size is kind of, do you get what I'm saying?
So yeah, it's quite low.
Way,
Do you know what I was saying in terms of, I think at the moment, until the last game under Carrick, we're talking about from the first game where he played, we beat Manchester City. I think he had taken more. I think he's still taken more points than Arteta's taken at Arsenal since he's been in charge of Manchester United. I know the trajectory started off very good, and we've had some bad results. And I said my kind of stance with this one is, I think Michael Carrick is doing a good job, and my concern was not that he's the best option, because I think there's going to be a massive raise in kind of how difficult it's going to be next season because of the extra games.
But my question is, what if he loses 4 or 5 games to now? Will you still give it?
If we lose 4 or 5 games, and it's going to be difficult, isn't it? I think
not what you think they will do.
You look at it.
Not don't think what they will do. What you would do? Would you give him?
What I would do? I think you have to look at it, and one of the things I'll say, I'm not trying to avoid the question, but it depends what options you've got. That if we had, I said this months ago, if Luis Enrique says, I want the Man United job, it'd be kind of difficult to turn down a manager that's won the highest level trophies, that's played amazing football. And I would be going, Lewis, welcome to Old Trafford. But when we're looking at Areola, for me, I'm kind of 50-50. And Nagelsmann, I'm actually a little bit 50-50. But I would say, if Michael Carrick imploded and the football, there is no, I'm not 100% on Carrick. I know it appears that way, but I just haven't seen. I've seen options I think would be good, but then I've seen those people turn it down and go, and I don't see lots of other options. Like Thomas Frank, I was kind of 50-50. When I saw Glasner, I think I was positive on some of these managers when we had Ruben Amorim, because I thought they might be a bit more,
like anything else,
more flexible. And I think at the moment, I'm probably like 60-40 in favor of Carrick, saying I don't see.
Yeah, but no matter how it goes,
massive disappointment.
My point is, are you 60-40 no matter how it goes? That's kind of my question. That will you be influenced? That's why, after 2 games, when we had those 2 amazing games, everyone was on the high. It was amazing, by the way. I was kind of the only one who said, I will, no matter what, I will wait to the end of the season. I won't say anything about it, because if we win the first 10 and then lose 4-0 the last 6, it won't happen. But you get me? Like, I always said about Carrick, like, wait to the end of the season, because we still don't know. Like, if he loses to Chelsea now, like horribly, and then we lose a couple more and draw and like bad, like no one is going to want to give it to Carrick. But if he wins all, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't get why some fans are so Carrick in and so Carrick out, because we don't know. Yeah, that's why
you get what I'm trying to be somewhere in the middle, where,
me too.
Where if people no, what I would say, in my opinion, would be that, say a few games ago, everything's going pretty well, and I'm just looking at Manchester United's league position, thinking, you've got some good managers in there that have also been very inconsistent over the season. Manchester United's squad has its limitations. I think I was actually quite generous with Ruben Amorim for a lot of the season because of the squad, and some of the issues. I think the thing that kind of changes my opinion a little bit is that last night there were some mistakes, I thought, in terms of the personnel, in terms of
Yeah,
subs.
like we
Would he
deserve better said.
respond? Because if he changes completely and goes right, and we see, I think, maybe better management over 5 games, it'll be different. But it is quite tricky, isn't it? Because we just don't have lots to go on.
That's where I am as well. Like that's why I've always said I will wait to the end, because I won't do this week by week thing that I start doubting him, then I believe him, then I start doubting him. I want to see
No, exactly.
the
So
whole
you want to
reign.
like a flip flop, do you? But you want to go, because I would say we deserve better sums it up quite well in the comments, saying that whatever happens regarding the results, I
And
think Carrick should be in contention,
this
and then it
this
comes down to
this I think no matter what you believe in, I think everyone should at least agree with this comment. I think this is a brilliant comment. Like regardless of the results, like he deserves at least an interview like everyone else. But the thing that I was passionate about yesterday, with that I said shave my head thing, because we have to interview a lot of others. And also what I will say, even though I'm not sure about Carrick, even if we lose the next 4 games, which I hope not, knock on wood, I'm knocked on my computer. Even if we lost the next 4, I would still pick him over IRAOLA, Glasner, Frank, and stuff, just because I believe in his character and stuff. But if we lose the next 4, I will still pick him over those. But then I would have more keen to have other managers. But if he does good until the end of the season, whatever that is, there aren't that many available that I will take over him. But like I said yesterday, I think if I was in charge, bring in, he's low wage. You don't have to, like another manager, you have to maybe buy them out of the club and stuff like that. He's low wage. I would invest the excellent team around him, like the best from Spain or Italy or England or Germany, and just assemble like a Avengers team around him, because I believe in him as a person. He's very don't get too high, don't get too low. I like a lot about his character, but I would rather invest in the team around him, or like I said yesterday, get like an Ancelotti, a brilliant manager with very short-term manager, and he can be like an assistant. And people say, oh, would he be an assistant? I don't think he'd be assistant to anyone but Ancelotti, and learn from him, and then the club will sort everything. So I think there's a lot of different situations and possibilities here, but
do you think part of this as well? Like a lot of we're just looking at results, and I think also one thing that might be important in terms of who you're going to get as the next head coach, manager, whatever we would describe it as, might come down to like a serious interview, because Vivel's going to be scouting the players and having a lot of say in who we sign. And I think a lot of it might be in terms of how does Carrick see Manchester United playing? How does he operate as a coach? And what is he thinking is going to be the way we go next year and the year after? And I think also if you then got in, say, for example, Areola, or you looked at Nagelsmann, or you looked at, say, any other option that's linked, then there is potentially a few. If you look at those people, say, right, what is your feeling for how the team's going to play, and also see how that aligns with what Bavell sees as a scouting, and see
what
how
players we got in the club currently.
I think whatever happens, the situation we had where we had a manager that wanted to use wing backs, and we had effectively a squad that had no wing backs, and
he's been that's a good point. Like the point you're making now is the point of the night for me, because
I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it should be too difficult, because I think what we ended up with in a weird scenario was 2 kind of unconventional managers in a row. And I think what we're putting together is actually a more, if you look at the pieces and you arrange it to a sensible formation, what we were essentially doing was building a squad that 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 suits. And that's probably going to be the general sort of tactical approach for a lot of top teams. And what we were doing was we were constructing a squad in line with top teams in Europe and what most top managers would be doing. But we got managers that wanted to do something quite unconventional, which was a bit, considering if you go back, if you get in your time machine and go back to when we recruited these managers, I'd be really interested to see if they actually said what they wanted to do, and we looked at our squad and thought, okay, that's going to be a bit, but it feels like it was so risky, and I
What do
feel
you mean
a little bit,
risky?
a little bit more relaxed that Michael Carrick, okay, I think
Oh,
people
okay, okay,
got,
okay. Now I understand. I understand what you
yeah,
mean, and something that we strongly both agree on, which this is something that you are a part of it. We deserve better. It's a part of it. Amarim is a part of it. There has been a change of my mind. Something that I have believed in for the last 10 years. I have changed fundamentally. Like, I believed in this thing, and now I believe in the total opposite. And this is not a right and wrong thing, but I'm just saying, I'm before Christmas, the last 10 years until December, I've always been the guy who said a manager needs to have a plan, a philosophy, a tactic, a vision, or else, like, I've always been very vocal about that to my friends and to everyone. And when I was a manager for a short time, but I've completely gone to the other side now, because so I even don't want Nagelsmann ahead of Carrick, even if Carrick loses 4 games, which sounds mental. If I said this to myself like a half a year ago, I would slap myself in the face. But one thing I like about Carrick, when people use the Solskjaer, the Carrick, he doesn't have a philosophy, what's his tactic, what's his format? I think I used to watch that as a guy without a plan. The players would be confused, and now I'm the completely opposite team, and I don't know about the chat what you guys think about. Do you want a guy with a plan, a tactic? This is me. I actually think, when I look back at Ferguson now, like, sometimes we played like prime Sam Allardyce Bolton football. Sometimes we played prime Barca. Sometimes we played United way, the Busby way. Sometimes we played like Italian team. You get what I'm saying? Like, Ferguson was the
I
master
remember
of.
actually there's a few games in Europe where, because we struggled away in Europe,
It was
we started
horrible to
setting up
watch.
not to lose. We
Horrible to
started
watch.
setting up to take a 0-0, and I remember that. And I
100%.
remember that there's a lot of games in the Premier League where it wasn't pretty football. And sometimes a lot of Manchester United's, say in the treble season, a lot of it was we conceded goals. We were very open, and we just had we had a relentless attack, which left us vulnerable. But we had enough goal scorers to get over the line in a lot of games. It was
Yeah.
exciting and fun, but it was, I think, when you then get it was quite open, wasn't it? It's quite flexible, and the
Yeah,
players took a lot of
because
responsibility. It was
because I
quite fun to watch. I think now sometimes when people talk about saying they want to see a style of play, they just want to see they just want to see Pep Guardiola possession football, and they want to see
no,
basically
but
Man United not giving
no,
the ball
no, but
away.
you can say they want, if it's a Nottingham Forest signing, or if Inter Milan is signing, it doesn't always have to be the tiki-taka high pressure. But people always nowadays, and me included earlier, want to see a style of football. It doesn't always have to be pretty. But if I, for example, was I don't know, a Wolves supporter, I wouldn't be like in the relegation zone and be like, okay, get the Cherby high line. I would be happy with the Sean Dyche holding, but I want a philosophy. But actually, the last couple of months, I've gone to the complete opposite side, because I've always seen kind of Solskjaer and the Carrick and managers who is like that. I've always been like, that's a guy without a plan. But now I view it as they are flexible. And I really rate that, because I don't know, being with Ten Hag, and not being with, but with Ten Hag and Amarim for years now, we know that the reason why Sporting led the Champions League, the reason why they won the first time in 20 years in Portugal, the reason why Ajax was in the semi-final, is because they are brilliant tacticians if they have the players for it. But actually, what I've changed my mind completely about is that I want a manager like, okay, we are playing City. We are low block, 20% possession. We are playing shit football today. Oh, tomorrow we are playing Sunderland. I'm playing with Bruno in midfield and going attack. I like the flexibility. So I don't know what the chat thinks about this, but I've gone to the completely opposite side, that I don't want this Irola Nagelsmann, like, this is my way or the highway. Like, I really, that's probably the biggest strength in Carrick for me, is that I want a manager that plays differently every week. And the last thing I'm going to say is, when an opposition team, when an opposition team plays against Ange, right? It's so much easier to predict what Amorim and Ange is going to do, or the Cherby, because they do the same every match. It's so much easier for a team. Like, imagine being a team nowadays with all the data you have available, trying to predict what Ferguson is going to do the next game. He never picked a team I agreed with. I'd always be like, why is he starting this and
do you
that?
find with Ferguson,
It's
like
impossible
he's
to
a good
predict.
example where you look at the lineup and you had no idea how it was going to work. Because
Ever.
I remember looking at the lineup
Ever.
and thinking, we're going to take on Vieira and Petit, and we've got Veron and Phil Neville, and that was a game we won 2-0. And I
Yeah.
was looking at the lineup thinking, how's this going to work? And you look at it thinking,
It was like that often.
and it was actually quite often that he did that. I think that's the one thing that I've not really seen many managers do that since, where
No.
it's almost like they could rotate the team almost every single game, not loads, but like one or two players, and gradually,
Pep does that
over
a
the
bit,
course of the
to be
season.
fair. I think
As well.
I think he's good at Pep. I think is really good at that, to be fair. But he has all the luxury. But every time I
He's
watch,
a good squad to choose from.
yeah. But we had as well. But do you remember? This is just a fun question. But do you remember the? I don't know if was the FA Cup or the Carabao. But do you remember the win against Arsenal with that horrible midfield? If you know what I'm talking about. We played 4-4-2 with Rafael, and I think it was, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Rafael, O'Shea, Fletcher, and Fabio as the four in midfield. And I think it was Hernandez and another, or maybe it was Darren Gibson in midfield. But we played with Rafael, Fabio, O'Shea, and Fletcher, or O'Shea or Gibson, against Arsenal in the cup side. And me and my mates, we were fuming before the game. We were like, okay, he wants to, like, Rafael and Fabio isn't even wingers, and he's playing O'Shea and Fletcher in the midfield. Like, that will never work. And we smashed them. So yeah,
No, that was my point. When you looked at it on paper, you didn't know how it was going to work, and then when you watched the game, you're like, okay. And there was obviously a plan, and everybody knew what they were doing, and it was obviously organized
yeah.
well. I've got a good comment here from We Deserve Better. It says, "Big same." I think this is in line with, like, Ruben Amorim had a very bad first season, and then he was given time. We got a transfer window where we did get some good players in. We had the preseason, and is it going to be? Is it going to be? Is it unfair to judge
Do you know
Michael Carrick
what?
based
I
on
actually disagree with
amount
that. Do you know
time?
why? Do you know why? Because when you sign as a full-time coach, you're signing for a plan. Like, when they spoke to Amorim, 100% they would have said, yeah, we will get you wing backs. Yeah, we will get you this and that. He has been promised things he hadn't done, but he should have done much better. But the reason why I disagree with this, and I love you, WDB, you know that, but the reason why I disagree is because for interim to get the full-time job at United, when you have your peak is getting sacked by Middlesbrough, then I think we have the right to, he has to be very good now. Like, we can't be like, have an interim, and if he does okay, he gets the United job. So I think, I get your point, but I think for an interim at any club to get the permanent job, if they're just there to, I think they have to be we have to have them at a higher standard than a manager who has already done things, and you have a long-term vision. Then if you get an interim in, we can, because the opposite side of what you're saying is basically, if we get an interim in and he does okay or just better than Amorim, we should hire him. So do you get what I'm saying, Rich? Like, I think we should.
Yeah, no, I think I was taking the view that if Ruben Amorim had got third, then he would have definitely been kept. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to not the results, because I do think we're going to get Champions League football. I think a lot of it's going to come down to where where they see Manchester United going in the future, and it might be that as fans we look at like this season and we look at next season, and maybe they're looking longer term, thinking we're building for, because sometimes the transfer strategy doesn't make 100% sense, but if you're looking 3-4 years down the line, which hopefully they are, and they're planning towards the certain squad, and there's some purchases that we've seen recently that will be in line with actually being better 2 or 3 years time. And you just wonder whether they're thinking that, maybe they're looking at a different head coach, and imagine and fast forwarding a couple of years where we should have a much better squad, and thinking, no, we want a manager that's been in and around sort of the final stages of Champions League and lifted up, titles as well. And it might be that Areola doesn't come on that list either, and it might be that that United are not being particularly quick, because maybe I get the feeling, and this is kind of what I said yesterday, I get the feeling that Manchester United might have this idea that they want to go for a manager that's already won certain trophies, and the manager they're looking for possibly doesn't want to join Manchester United because they want a team that is geared to win now. And it might be that
Yeah.
that's why they're taking a long time. And if they don't get, I get the feeling United will either go for, if they got a Luis Enrique, possibly Nagelsmann, and if that, maybe that might be a couple they would go for. But if it comes down to Areola or other managers like De Zerbi was mentioned, and managers that for me become kind of in line with Carrick in terms of that they got some experience, but they haven't won Champions League. They haven't been managers of like Real Madrid or other top teams. You look at it and go, well, in that case, I think they'll stay with Carrick, but it'll be like a short-term deal where they'll go, and Carrick essentially will have to win his win the next season. He'll have to do really well next season.
Yeah, and he
to
will
be
have
kept on after that.
He will have pressure on him then. But a key thing also, Carrick would not say yes to this, but I'm also down for the idea of the manager market has, like, in my 30 odd years, even though I didn't watch football for the first 7 or 6 or 7, but the manager market this summer, I don't know about you, Rich, but has it ever been? It's so, yeah, I can't remember one summer where it has been so shit. Like the options and the World Cup and good managers because there has been World Cups, but the good managers aren't in the national teams, like Ancelotti and Nagelsmann and Tuchel. They aren't. It's Roy Hodgson, and I think the manager market is horrible. So I'm also kind of down for the idea, because I disagree with people just wanting to get anything else than Carrick. So I'm also down for the idea that if it's not a serial winner or anything else like that, just keep Carrick until we find a better solution, for example. And about what I said about the tactics thing about Carrick being flexible, I think that puts him in my head ahead of a lot of managers, like even Nagelsmann, who I really rate, like if he goes to another club. But just at United, like I said, I've just turned my opinion on the head. Like, I want a flexible coach who doesn't have a philosophy. I want the philosophy to be winning. And like I said, I think it will be harder for opposition to plan what a manager like Carrick is going to do than what IRAOLA or De Zerbi or a manager that has a clear vision of play. It's much easier to predict the lineup, the formation, the style of play, the strengths, the weakness. So yeah, I want Carrick or Ancelotti or what was the other one? Luis Enrique. And yeah, I'm very alone on this, but I would take Conte. I think he's the closest to Ferguson in this world of football. But I know he's erratic in the post-match press conferences, but Ferguson was that as well. So I think Conte also plays people think he's a 3 at the back coach, and he almost never does it for Napoli, for example. But yeah, I would take Conte, Luis Enrique, Ancelotti, or I won't take anyone else right now. But
I think that this is one where it's a shame it's a shame Man United just didn't keep winning things, and then we wouldn't have this discussion. But I actually think that regardless of what happens, that it might have been hard for Michael Carrick to. It depends that if one of these top managers was interested, I think it might be hard for Michael Carrick anyway, because I think
yeah,
they would look beyond this season and look for a manager they feel more confident in. I was going to ask you about some of the transfer news because Senesi's been linked a lot, and given what we saw last season, what we saw yesterday with I don't know Lissandro the Barber Martinez, and you look at De Ligt's not playing at all. Aiden Heaven and Yori are good players, aren't they? But they need a little bit of support and they need some experience in the squad.
yeah.
And United are looking at Senesi. I think the reason why it's an interesting one is he's a free agent, so we're not going to be talking about Manchester United having to fork out loads of cash. It seems the teams that are interested are. I mean, if Spurs might not be a Premier League team, so we can probably rule them out. And I don't know what I mean. You look at that. Chelsea are going to be. I don't know. Are Chelsea a good option for anybody? I don't know if
No,
Chelsea are a good option. But Chelsea do need centre backs, so I think that's a weakness in
I
their
laugh.
team.
I laugh about one thing I think is funny. I was kind of laughing right now. I think is funny is if anyone in the world believes Krupi to Chelsea, that was what I was laughing about, because that makes, like, imagine Krupi, Delap, and Pedro. Like, that won't happen. So I don't believe that story at all. Like, him to Chelsea makes no sense for anyone. Like, they have 3 players on the exact same level, all young, competing for one position. Like, so I would put Chelsea off of that list, but Liverpool may happen. But yeah, we talk of Senesi. Like I said, the only place I'm content about right now in the whole entire squad is the 10 position with Bruno, because I think JJ will be old enough to play next season. I'm just saying, I'm not saying he's a challenger for Bruno. I'm just saying we don't need a 60, 50 million to be backup for Bruno, because Bruno always plays. So I'm content about the 10 position, and I'm actually content about the centre back position. I know the timing is poor to say that because of what's happened the last time, but I'm content about De Ligt, Martinez, Euro, Heaven, and Maguire. I don't think we need a 6th. So I'm good there. But Krupi, I would definitely take, because one of the things that I really want is direct left winger to have on Cunha, and I want a competitor for Sesko. We need that, in my opinion. So, and every time I watch Krupi, it's like, yeah, he's actually outside of United. Like, he's one of my favorite players in the entire league. Like, I really think he will be. I don't think he is I'm good now and young and then I will fade out. I think I'm, yeah, like I said, I'm stuttering because I'm really, really impressed every time I see him. Like, he's not a talent in my eyes. He's really good right now. And yeah, I thought it would be very special, because him and Sesko is quite different also. I think Krupi reminds me of like a mix between maybe Rashford and Martial in the playing style. Yeah, yeah, like I said, I won't be repeating myself, but I don't want another centre back, because I think we have 6. So even though he's free, I just think I like how it is, and then Fredrickson can be the 6th, and yeah, Krupi I would take, but I don't know. I wanted to ask your opinion about this. Clubs that are like well driven. Is that the right word? Well driven? Do you say that? Well run. You say well run.
Well run.
Yeah. I have become the last months a bit skeptical buying players from well-run clubs and managers from well-run clubs, because, like, with Bournemouth, for example, like you said with Iraola, that he does good and stuff, but the you see the managers in Brighton, in when Thomas Frank left, in Brentford, in Bournemouth, they get, you said it best in the start of the show. You said they lost so many players, Bournemouth, and Iraola still does good. And we say the same about Brighton. We say the same about
Do you know
Brentford.
what I said as well? A slightly different point, but I said that if we're going to buy players, I don't like us buying players from well-run clubs for a different reason, because they know what they're doing. So if we buy a player from Real Madrid, we don't get, I think I've seen a business quote somewhere where you look at any sort of business transaction, and they'll always say that somebody loses in the deal, like whatever transaction somebody loses, like someone
Yeah,
wins. That's
very good
and I
point.
was thinking, when Manchester United do business with Real Madrid, we generally lose. Like, okay, Di
Yeah,
Maria was unlucky, but we also paid too much for Casemiro and too big a salary, and we should have got
Anthony
more money for Cristiano Ronaldo. He was a
and
world-class player.
Anthony, because Ajax is a well-driven club.
Yeah, and Bayern Munich, like
Yeah,
I think we did
yeah.
okay from Bayern Munich, but we did get. I don't know if they knew more about the Litz injury issues than possibly we found out. But I
No,
was just like
that was
taking that.
that with the leak thing is quite simply that they didn't have a plan for the managers and stuff, so they just brought in like Kim Min Jae, Eric Dyer. Like they had like 7 Upamecano. They had like seven center backs, and De Ligt wanted to be like, I want to be at a club where I'm not playing, like, because every one of them had high salary and wanted to play. So it was more like De Ligt loves United as a kid, and he wanted to play at the club like
No,
where
I
he's
thought
more
it was actually quite a
appreciated.
good deal. Quite a good deal. I'm just going to say welcome to Agile Beast. We
Oh,
got
Agile Beast, you
our Scottish
legend.
Avenger from Arizona back
I
in the
love him.
comments.
He's
Big up
such
to
a
you, Agile Beast. Good to see you.
he has such good
Hope
takes.
it's good to get you back in the comments as well.
Yeah.
And I just said to people, what's people's takes on the players linked? Because I think my general view was I was kind of relaxed about the defensive situation as well because of the numbers, and I'm starting to be a bit concerned that I don't want to write off De Ligt, but if he doesn't play at all the rest of the season, I don't know what the injury issue is, and obviously, medical records shouldn't be in the public domain, but it does make me concerned a little bit. Like Manchester United,
Of
there is
course.
like regular stories about this, and this would seem like if there's a free agent, I think it's not about. But again,
I
if we
just
see
think it
Manchester
rocks
United
up.
push
I
hard,
just think it. I just like, you love heaven. I love heaven. WeDB loves heaven. A lot of people love heaven. I love Euro.
but he's
I love
19.
Leach.
That's my point is that he
I just
needs
think
someone there.
yeah, no, I just think then we have Fredrickson. If we, I'm not saying that Fredrickson is a Senesi, but I'm just saying we don't need. If a club needs 6 centre backs, you really need to. So at that, but I get your concerns. But I would be like, with the Carrick situation, the centre back with Licha and De Ligt, because if someone has seen me here before on the channel, like I
Yeah.
love them both, but my love for United is even bigger. So my view is, if we see the same next season, like anything remotely, I would sell them both, no hesitation stuff. But I think I would give another season with this 5, and then if something repeats and the patterns, I would be, even though I love them both, I would sell them both without, like United is. But I think
Yeah, I think Jules makes a really good point as well, though, that if you watched Real Madrid in the Bernabeu, Mark Gahey got pretty humbled in that match, and it is, and okay, so it's a one-off game, but I suppose the gulf between Manchester United playing domestically and playing kind of elite level football is going to be that it's an experience that these players haven't
yeah,
really done, and it's going to be. I mean, I don't really want to be sat here
but
next year talking about some embarrassing defeats in Europe. If we're assuming we're going to get into Europe, at least, even if it's not the Champions League, we almost certainly get into Europe, I think.
yeah, I
And you
agree.
look at it and think,
Oh,
we kind of need the quality. If Manchester United go right, we got Real Madrid away. Maguire's injured. De Ligt still hasn't come back, and Lisandro Martinez is like suspended, and we have to put Yoro and Aiden Heaven in there, or Yoro and Martinez. I'll just be like thinking, come on, Man United. Like if there was an option, and we're talking about not necessarily Senesi, but if we're looking at options where Man United just like need a little bit in terms of experience or
yeah, but
quality.
I agree with this. But my counter argument would be, if I said like like when you do a to-do list, if I said like priority in transfers, I would put a central midfielder in number 1, central midfielder number 2 at number
Yeah.
2, and then I would put left winger, direct quick left winger at 3. I would put backup striker as number 4. I would put the third midfielder at number 5 and a left back starting at number 6, and then I would put a sixth center back. So I agree with everything that you and Jules are saying. I'm just saying we can't get everything, and I think getting a backup striker, getting a winger, getting 2 or 3 midfielders, getting a left back who is fit, I think all of those like goes ahead in priority for me. But I do agree with what both you are saying. But
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
think
saying we
United as
don't
well. I think
have
United
endless
have.
pockets.
I think United have done the same. I think United have prioritised midfield. If you look at the transfer news, it's highly targeted towards midfielders to start with, and then after that, you look
Yeah,
at left wing, you look at left back,
striker,
and
left back.
potentially
So
a bit of a backup striker. And I keep seeing defenders linked, but I think that's going to be something that I think Manchester United would prefer to do it next season.
yeah,
Hence the Maguire. I think the Maguire extension is
was
their
the
way of
signal.
thinking. Right, this
Yes,
kind of like tides us over for one season, and we can
but I
spend
do
proper
agree with
money
that.
in a year. And I think that last night, because Maguire was suspended and Lissandro Martinez had that issue, I think it's come to the fore in a few people's minds where they're looking at it and going, like, if we're going to be realistic, and if you take the best squad in the Premier League and you want Manchester United to match it, then we need to, we would have to get all these players in, which is probably unrealistic in one window.
Yeah.
To get to where we want to be is unrealistic in one window. And if we prioritize things, and what's the thing you need at least?
What
And
would your
everybody would say
priority be?
midfielders.
Can you do the same that I did? I said central midfielder at number 1, central midfielder number 2. Then I said backup or
Yeah, so I would
winger,
say central
strike.
midfielder is like Casemiro's replacement is number one for me. Not like no, not you get what I mean. That he's going
Yeah,
to go.
yeah,
That's the number one position. The number
yeah,
two position, I think, is also centre midfield
yeah,
because Agarty's not good enough. So that's two people.
yeah.
Then third priority for me would be,
I think you
I
would
would say,
want a
I think
backup
it might
striker
be a
before a
backup
winger.
striker. To
Yeah,
be
I
honest, I
thought
think a
that
backup
we would switch on that. But yeah, I see your point.
because
And
I think Sesko should start, and I think we should be playing 4-2-3-1 with Sesko as the striker
yeah,
as a starting, and I think we need to have a backup striker. I think
yes,
left wing, okay, it's not ideal, but I think Cunha's effective there. Dorgu could be effective there. I
no.
don't mind us going for. I think we need to get both realistically.
Would you
Um,
put what would you put first of left back,
this won't be
out
popular, but I could see Man United if we
winger?
ran out of cash. I could see Man United just looking at left back, thinking, Shaw can be there, a Mass possibly, but possibly Dorgu, which I don't really think, but also Mazraoui's potential
Have them.
there as well. We've seen Dallo play there. I
Uh,
think the left back might be one where they don't spend a lot of money, or if we do
yeah,
get a player, it'll be younger, cheaper.
so you would go central midfielder, backup striker, then left back, then winger, then the third midfielder, or
You probably go winger slightly before left back. So I think left back is one where
yeah,
Luke Shaw,
I agree.
Mazraoui, there's three people that can play there. I don't think
I
they're
agree.
perfect by any means, but I think in my priority, like it's not the priority of midfield. If the
No,
midfield can control games a bit more, then I don't think we're going to be. If we're really concerned about a left back, I think there's other issues. I think the
yeah,
centre back thing is one where it'd be great if we could do it, wouldn't it? But it's not going to be. We're not going to spend much money. I'd
yeah.
be
So
very
I
surprised.
agree. I
And
agreed with the comment, but I just think there
anything
are. Is it possible for me to share the screen in 2
There should be.
seconds?
With like three centre midfielders, I think one thing we're not really thinking about is there is potential for one or two players from the academy to step up and get. And I'm not saying they're going to step up and play against Barcelona or Madrid or something, but in Premier League games or Cup games, in terms of rotating the squad a bit, there is options for Lacey to get a few games. I think Sekakone maybe possibly, and other players that people are
Yeah,
looking at. So I think we could see a couple of we're probably talking about the sort of games that Heaven's got this season. A few games here and there, but not really running the team. And I think we
yeah,
could see like one. I think every season you see one or two, and that's
yeah,
something we haven't really talked about. And I think it's something actually. before you go share your screen. I think one thing we haven't talked about that much this season is giving academy players games, because we just haven't had a lot of games, have we? Like one game every 20 days is like,
and also when you always have like we say in Norway, we say kniven i strupen. That means you have the blade on your neck, like you're always like how do you say it, like when you've always kind of like when you're too basically when you're too, how do you say it in English, like when you're 2 games away from being fired, almost like when you're almost under pressure, when you always have the knife in your, like you're so close to getting killed, there's no room for like giving youngsters.
No, this is what I thought actually. This was
when you need to win every game.
Yeah, when Carrick took over, and actually I think we said this as well, didn't we, under Ruben Amorim? Because if you remember, every time there was an international break last year, there were stories about Ruben Amorim potentially getting replaced, sacked. So that with that in mind, if you're Ruben Amorim, and I made this point as well, if you're Ruben Amorim, you don't think about, oh, let's give this young player an opportunity because in 2 or 3 years' time he might be a top quality player. You're thinking, I better bloody win on the weekend or I'm getting sacked. And so it's a different situation. I think sometimes it's always frustrating, isn't it, that you kind of need to be an established manager, have kind of like the wins under your belt, have a bit of security in the league, and then you can bring youngsters in. Hopefully, if you've got some very good ones, it's ideal. And Winners of Bed's actually got a pretty decent idea as well. I think this is probably pretty much in line. I'll go for it and say CDM, CM. I'd say, you got Casemiro, Agate, Kobe Collier.
Did you forget the striker?
Well, he's gone left wing, left attacking midfielder.
Yeah, because he's been talking about like he likes Sesko. He wants something to challenge Sesko, and he doesn't like when we play a lot of Mbeumo and Ahmad, on the striker. He wants Mbeumo in his best position, so maybe he forgot. But also, WDB, you need to accept me on TikTok. I've sent you a request to follow you, and you haven't accepted. But yeah,
interestingly, Winners of Bed has got right back ahead of left back.
Yeah,
and the only reason I haven't mentioned the right back is because there's no way I would sit here and go, right, let's win everything with Dalot. But I do think that because Manchester United have got so many, like when you look at this list of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because you've got so many players, I would say with Dalot, it's a little bit like Bruno. With Dalot, I think Dalot has got what's the word? His injury record elevates him above like actually getting replaced, because
availability is the best ability. So,
it's I was going to say it's his only ability, but that's harsh. No, it's definitely an ability. It's definitely helpful, isn't it?
What do you say in England? You say the game where you do this, and there's like a animal sticking up. You use the hammer to slot, and then it comes up another place. What do you call that? Whack.
Oh, like whack-a-mole thing.
Whack-a-mole, yeah. I feel like that is also United, because next season maybe a player that we were sure of, or like maybe we fix it. It's almost like the cartoons where they like hold on to a stream of water coming up, and then they do this, and then it comes up a third one. I feel like that is kind of also United. There's almost always something that shows up. So I think we have to.
Like it's with Man United. We looked at the team last night and went, Alessandro Martinez is coming back. That's good. And then at the end of the match, we're actually going, Alessandro Martinez might have a 3-game ban and Kobe Mainoo's injured, and go, what? We're actually in a worse position. I think with this one that United signed some good players in the team, but then Mbeumo has, I would say this one, like Mbeumo has been in bad form, but I think he was still he should have started though, because he's fallen off in form, but he hasn't fallen out of being in our best 11. That's probably a question. Oh, interestingly, Jules has got a good something we forgot about is that we might need to look at, like, Bayardi's gone.
Not might need. We do need.
Anana's going to go. And then Mr. Vitek has got quite used to being first-team goalkeeper at Bristol City. He might not want to be on the bench. So Man United might have to sort out.
That is a very good shout, because seriously, if we get Lamans injured, like we can't, like even if it's for 2 games, that could be crucial with Bindy, and they are so bad. So that is a very good point from
I
Jules.
think when I've read though, actually Bindy's agreed terms somewhere, and it's just about getting the
Okay.
right price. So I think with Vitek at Bristol City, it's going to be a question of either he's Manchester United's backup goalkeeper, or he's there to try
Yeah.
and get him, but or Man United sell him and replace him with somebody
But then
somebody else.
again,
Oh,
I
I
think,
think he's highly rated. I think it's
yeah, I
no,
don't.
we scouted Lamans. I think United would be able to get a replacement for Vitek based on the same method of scouting they used before. Like they've got a lot of data, but also the scouts identified a few targets. So I think we
Yeah,
could do that,
I was
and it would
thinking,
be.
that actually it is a high priority, so I have to put that kind of higher on my list, because you don't think about it being a high priority because you want to see Diomande and Anderson and stuff like that. But actually, if you think about it, if anything happens to Le Mans, like imagine a 6 month something, like we are, yeah, you know the word.
It's something that there's no backup, is there?
But
Then
but
that's
then
kind
but then again, I will say
of.
at the same time, it would be very easy to find a better. If you look at it
I
this
think
way,
at this point in time, I'm
you
not
could
sure if
buy
it
a
applies
better
still, but I think
keeper
Man
than,
United, I
yeah.
think Manchester United can recall Vitek. They might have to pay some money, but I think they can recall him if they need him. Like I don't think they would be unable to do that. It probably cost a bit of money, but it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
There is like I don't know if Tom Heaton retires as well. I know he's like the third choice goalkeeper, but it's still no, it's still someone you need to replace.
I don't think you
Possibly,
will.
I think United, if they did, it would just be again like a cheap
I
kind of
really
option.
like him. Uh, uh, um, a hot shot. No, what you call it when it's a hot take. My hot take is, I think one day he will be a brilliant manager. You hit it there. I think I really like the character of him. I want to keep him just because every time I see him speak the way he is, or like, I really rate like his character, the way he is, like even if it's 5 seconds clips, like every time I see something about Tom Heaton or players talking on the Sky Sport channel, like every time someone says something about Tom Heaton, I really think we should keep him as the third, because I think he is good with the young players. Like generally, I think he is a joker. He makes laughs. He puts off pressure. So yeah, I would really love to
It's
extend
almost
him.
like half coach because
Yes.
when goalkeepers are training slightly separate as well, he's someone that I think he was doing coaching badges. So he's someone it's almost like he's that. And I know he's a football player, but he's not playing games.
Yeah.
Might play a preseason match, but he's not. It's not that he's going to play games. He's there with the younger goalkeepers, running training drills, etc.
Yeah,
And
and
things. And
I'm usually not a fan of it, because like just there to be the cheerleader, but in this I do make exceptions, because just no, it's just a personal thing, but like every time I watch him, I think I would love to have him in my team when I played football, like in and around. Like he is very jokey, but he's very mature and serious about winning. At the same time, I think he's a perfect guy to have in and around the club to talk about difficult things. They're like, he could be the dad of someone. Like he could be yours dad in age almost. It's crazy. So yeah, we need a second goalkeeper, and like I said, I think we can get a better second goalkeeper than Bayern or Nana for a pack of Kit Kat. Not maybe a half pack of Kit Kat. So I don't see it as like financially we need to really dig in the pockets, but we really need to, like Jules said, we really need to do it. But I don't think it's hard finding a second goalkeeper that is
yeah,
better
no,
than
I
those
think
two.
with this one as well that Vitek would actually bring in a transfer fee that would allow Manchester United to spend that money on replacing him.
Yeah,
So I think it's either you have Vitek or you sell Vitek and buy somebody else. So when I looked at the kind of potential money you could get from him, it depends. If he wants to be, it's a bit like Henderson left, wanted to be first team goalkeeper. There's some goalkeepers are not going to want to be second choice, and you've got to respect that. They're
yes,
ambitious, and you kind of want that in your players. And if he's
yes.
happy to sit on the bench, then he will do. But if he's not, then you can't. He's going to go somewhere else. And hopefully one of these things like everybody was drawing the dots together, weren't they, and going Vitek as a backup makes sense, but if it's not to be, it's not to be. And Bindia will be gone. I'm 90% sure Anana's going to be, well, he's going to be 99% sure he's going to be off as well.
Yes, both of them will go. And yeah, like I think you're spot on about Vitek. Like people always said these things about players, like, yeah, we should keep him, we should keep him, we should keep him. But rarely people on Twitter or fans think that they are actually human beings. Like, what do they want? And I think Vitek should, for his own career, and I read him as very ambitious. I think he should go another place, and we should get like a Sergio Romero or a good keeper that is happy to be a second choice, and not like Vitek, who is like a Dean Henderson, always trying to, because I hated having Dean Henderson. And you see in City, every time Donnarumma does something, everyone is on like Trafford start. I don't think that's healthy for Trafford, for Donnarumma, and for City, and for manager. I've never been a fan of two keepers competing for a place. So I would let go of Vitek, because I really believe in him. And I, like you said, I think it's a good thing that players want to play. But I would love to say keep Vitek, but you don't know about his view, his ambitions. I don't think he would be happy playing only Carabao Cup. So yeah, that's my personal opinion, at least.
Yeah, he might be kept. I mean, he's under contract, so the situation. So I can remove this and see if you can share your stream. I think actually it will appear here, so I can replace it.
Yeah. So this is if you put away Weedev Sorbel's comment, so you see the whole. Yeah, this was the team I was talking about. We saw this lineup for a game on Old Trafford against Arsenal, and I was like, that's basically 8 defenders, or like it wasn't even Fletcher, it was Gibson. So Gibson, O'Shea, Fabio, Rafael, Brown, obviously love Vidic and everyone from the Sar. Like, but yeah, we were so angry because I hated Arsenal back then, of course. When you see this, and we absolutely smashed them. And that is also the first and last time that Rafael or Fabio ever played as a winger for United. So just because it worked, he never tried it again. And that's a good
I was looking at that squad and thinking, obviously you got a good goalkeeper there. I think you got an Evra Vidic, the right hand side, left back and left centre back are amazing, and Wayne Rooney is obviously world class. And I was just thinking, can you imagine seeing that midfield on paper and you're looking at it thinking, there's no way it works? And it's a bit like looking at Manchester United in some games this season.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the same people, and it's not necessarily, how you don't know what the
no, it's the squad. So that's what I was saying about Carrick. I'm not saying he is Ferguson, but I'm just saying like different opponents needs different things, and sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. But I'm just.
I don't think with Ferguson, there's always like a tailored plan as well of like what to do to stop Arsenal and what to do in terms of like that particular game, how to exploit Arsenal's weakness. And we used to actually do, despite Arsenal being one of the top teams, it was something that we regularly did. I mean, I remember looking at the midfield I keep talking about, saying I think it's like 2002, and that was pretty much. I can put the slides back up. I think that was pretty much Manchester United with Phil Neville, and this is against world class a world class lineup Arsenal had with Petit and Vieira, and Manchester United beat them with Phil Neville and Veron. And I was looking at it thinking, how are we going to do this? How are we going to actually get? And that was when Arsenal had their elite team at the time, and they were actually genuine competition. I still think actually, if Arsenal win the league this season, they still don't seem, in my view, close to what they were in 1998, 99. They had much better players then.
No. And that's the funny thing. One of my best friends who I've talked about before is an Arsenal supporter, and he's always like, "You hate Arsenal, you hate Arsenal, you hate Arsenal." And I said, actually, yes, and actually, no. Because when you had Wenger under when they have like Wilshere, Ramsey, Santi Cazorla, Rochiski, Shamak, and that team, Walcott, I actually watched Arsenal games just for the entertainment. Like, I've always respected that I've always hated them, but I've always respected that they like play a good brand of football, attacking, and would rather win 4-3. I've always admired them in that. So I've always kind of liked Arsenal in that sense. So the thing about like, you hate Arsenal, no, I hate Arteta, I hate the players, I hate the fans. Like, it's him who has turned everything cringe. Like, I can't fault, like, obviously I hate Liverpool, but what Klopp did, the football he played, the human being he is, like, it's so hard to not like. Like, I loved that football, the brand of football he stood for. I liked the person he was. I liked a lot of the players he had, like Firmino and Mane. But Arsenal is just it's just every player they have is insufferable. The fans are insufferable. Arteta is insufferable. So it's not the club per se, but I could respect the brand of football. But yeah, I can't stand them. I can't stand them. By the way, Fabio scored in that game. 2-0, I checked. The Arsenal game.
That must have been pretty soon before we bought Van Persie then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the season we won the league, where we had, if you remember this, if you see on the camera, do you see my hands? When we had this and this across the chest in black. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I always think of Chicharito when I see that one.
Yeah, we were pretty. That was in my lifetime. This is a crazy thing to say, but that was the most shitty time we won the league, which is a crazy thing to say. But I remember that year being, most of the games was pretty boring. We played like 1-0, 2-0. So we have won so many titles that I can actually say that that was my least favorite the Premier League title. It sounds so crazy to say now for younger fans. Like, I can sit here and say that was my least favorite Premier League title. What a crazy thing to say. But yeah, it was the season where Valencia had that insane. Do you remember that season where Valencia was so good at right wing, and he had like multiple assists to Rooney? It was the first season where we didn't have Ronaldo. It was the season.
I was disappointed about. I think that starts the beginning of the end, where Man United have to we get over the line with Van Persie, but the overall quality is generally going a bit down.
Yeah, but I just agree with you on, if we, at that point when Moyes got the job, if that was, because I agree it was kind of the start of the fall, but I do agree with what you said last night, that if we had gotten Mourinho, or was it VDB who said it? Or was it you?
I said that if Man United had got Mourinho after Alex Ferguson, I think it'd been more chance of
So it was
continuing
you.
success.
So it was
Yeah.
you. I 100% agree with that. So I agree that it was the start of the fall, but I also disagree in the sense of, if we gotten Mourinho at that time, I think we would have been amazing with we had Evra. Instead of looking at Evra and Ferdinand and Vidic at the end of their career, they would have been amazing under Mourinho, even if they were older. So yeah, I agree with you 1000% on that. We should have got Mourinho, but everything is like hindsight. Oh, We Deserve Better sent the team. Can you put that up? The team that Arsenal had. Like, that was a much stronger side than ours, like on paper. Because if you remember, Nasri was probably one of the best players in the Premier League that year. That was the year where he was like insane, and City bought him after that. And Arshavin was also. It was the season where Arshavin scored 4 goals against. That's actually one of my favorite players of all time. If you talk about players that I
Back in the room.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
No, Arshavin is actually one of my all-time favorite players that doesn't play for United. Like, he wasn't in the Premier League for so long, but I really loved watching him. I've never seen a player like him, like before or after. He was really, I don't know if you agree, but I really loved. He was
like very good. I think it's at the time
so
where
different.
I think some of the times of Arsenal, they just, I don't know, they didn't seem to get over the line with. They had good players, and they got
Defenders.
to the stage where they got, when you get really really close, but you don't win something. Then what
Yeah,
was happening was that Man City were poaching their best players.
and
Like a couple of players left, didn't they? Like they got, was it Nasri left? He was good at the time. And then you look at Fabregas leaving, and then Manchester United, we nicked Van Persie, and that was kind of like ruined Arsenal then after that.
yeah, they never invested. They never invested in. Yeah, I did mess up my seasons. I realized that, but yeah, in and around. But yeah, they never invested in the defense. I remember. So I'm not going to say the season because I'm probably wrong about the exact season, but I remember, and some of the chat might remember when Wenger said the famously, like, we don't train, we don't, what did he say? We don't practice defending in our training at all. And they had like amazing footballers offensively, and their defense was always like Kieran Gibbs, Koscielny, Mertesacker, Kolasinac. Like they had a shitty defense. That's why they never won anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe I should do a poll based on like manager. What do you reckon the question should be? That, do you think it's too soon to like say we should get like I might do a
Yeah,
question regarding
I get your train
what
of
people
thought.
think.
Maybe ask the chat. What good question about the manager could Rich write about the manager?
I'll put this question. Okay, it's going to be a bit vague, but is it too early to decide on Carrick? Is mine, because I think at the moment.
No, that's a brilliant question. And you can put in yes, no, wait till the end of the season or something like that.
So I just put yes or no. If it's no,
yes,
then it's wait till the end of the season, I think.
Yeah.
But
No, that's a
because
good question.
with me, I think it seems crazy, doesn't it? We have got many games left. I think it's a bit more complicated than that. I think a lot of it's to do with, like, if someone said to me at the end, right, I think this is the option. You got either Michael Carrick or this person. I can make a decision. But at the moment, all we see is like speculative links, and we just look at it and go, well, at this point in time, everybody's linked, and I don't know who would be the best option.
Yeah. And yeah, I just wanted to answer also questions. There was a question about what's your favorite food, I think. I think it was I think it was Bilal.
This is one actually that we could look at that as well. But say if you want to have a vote, then as you'll be saying, what about Carrick or Carrick with new staff? Other, because I think you're of the mindset. I think from what you said earlier was you'd like to see Carrick with different people behind him.
100%.
I don't mind that either, because let's be
Because
realistic about the
Evans
situation.
literally played yesterday. He has no thing. Holland CV is playing the shittiest football with like the most amazing England team I have seen in my lifetime. Played the shittiest football of all the national
But do you think
teams.
the thing is that
Evans,
Manchester United didn't exactly know, this isn't like Man United headhunting the best possible people out there. It's that they put together a team in, when was it, like January, and you looked at it and go, okay, let's see what. Right. The results have actually been okay, but I do think that they're not the first choice, are they? And it's going to be, but you do need to have. This is something like Agile Beast is spot on. You're going to have to plan this sort of thing very carefully. It's like,
1000% agree, because
if you bought in Mourinho or you bought in Luis Enrique, they're going to have their guys, aren't they? They're going to have a ready-made team of people. And at the moment, we don't have that. Michael Carrick didn't have like these people who weren't just sat around waiting to go somewhere. and we
No,
kind of
but
put them
to
together.
to be fair to the club, that isn't the easiest thing when you have to think quickly and do it mid-season.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
yeah,
that. I'm not criticizing anything.
no,
I'm
no,
just
no, I
saying that
know.
the situation was what it was, and Man
Yeah,
United had to. The fact is that getting these people in, they've actually done a good job. I'm not saying they haven't done a good job. The question's going to be, what do you do in the future? Jim
yeah.
says
It's like I just have
no.
to. I,
Jim says no as long as Carrick doesn't get the job. So I think Jim is pretty much he doesn't want Carrick to get the job. So my question for Jim is going to be like, who do you want, Jim? Like, if you got a name you want, then let us know in the comments
yeah,
who you want to see as head coach.
I've said that Ancelotti and Luis Enrique and what was the other? Conte. Those are the only ones. Maybe Flick, but other than that, it's Carrick for me, and then reassess the next summer because I don't want to be in the camp to just take anything else than just Carrick. I'm not of that, but I'm really excited about if they did the thing that I said about getting a brilliant team around Carrick. That would excite me because like I'm very obsessive about like post and pre-matches and press conferences and how managers think and talk and tactics and everything. And what Ferguson has always said, what Klopp, Guardiola, Conte, Luis Enrique, everyone, like think of Ferguson with Carlos Queiroz and Mike Phelan, for example, or Klopp with the what is called like the not Reinders, but it's like, do you know who I mean?
Yeah.
The guy Klopp had. Do you know who I mean? The assistant coach to Klopp that is now at Pep. Do you know who
So
that is?
do you think Man United should be looking at? So if we go for a big manager, clearly they're going to have their own team. Are
Yeah.
you happy with like the fact that you'd keep Carrick with a team around him, or is that because if someone like Ancelotti came in, you'd want him to work with Carrick? I know you said that.
Yeah. I can say this: if Ineos, for example, I get the best assistant coach or one of the best. I get the best setup, the set piece coach from Germany, and then I get the assistant coach from Italy or someone from England, and they assemble a team around Carrick. If they did that, I will tell you, I will only take Luis Enrique then over that because that would excite me because I think there's a lot of things that I do like with Carrick. But there's nothing that excites me about having a guy that his peak is getting sacked by a championship club and then having Evans, who played yesterday, and Steve Holland around him. There's nothing that excites me or keeps me motivated about that. But if you say bring experts around him and let him manage the squad, the team, and they do the coaching, because Ferguson never like set up a training, like he was a manager. And so if you put it that way, I'm really tempted for Carrick, I will say, because there's so many things about his calmness and
Jim said he'd
personality I
get
like.
Emery out of his contract at Aston Villa. I mean,
Yeah,
Emery's a good manager.
he is,
How would he do it at Manchester United? I don't know.
but Jim, I can ask you this: if we lose 3 games on the bounce and a horrible loss against Liverpool, and you are not fed up with Emery, but a little bit, and he comes on after the game and says, "Yes, good, not good game, not a good game, not bad defending." I think you will lose it, and that's not me being rude. That's just like I said in the start. I think it's so important for United manager to be able to communicate, and it's hard to imagine it now because he's a good manager, but I believe that's why he failed at PSG and at Arsenal. That you don't get patience if you can't explain anything, and people use that on Amorim, that he stayed a lot longer because he had the gift of the gab, and I do agree with that. But yeah, but I'm not saying I disagree. I think Emery is like one of the best coaches in the world, but I just think in United, I think you have about 30 interviews. You have to be much more than just a good manager, and I think I see fans just taking the banter out of and good evening, and yeah, I will not take it good, and I'm from Norway, and English isn't my first language, but I wouldn't like his explanation. I would be so annoyed. But maybe that's just me being weird. But yeah, I would like.
I suppose of Emery, is it a bit surprising that Emery hasn't gone to a bigger club recently? He's doing a good job at Aston Villa. I think it's just, well, I mean, Man United, like Carrick beat Emery. I say that Man United actually have good results against Aston Villa,
I
but
think
I
he
think he
just
does a
has
good.
it.
He does a
He,
good job, but then
yeah, but
with
he
Man
has
United
it
fans, they
perfectly
complain
there.
that it does run quite a high line at Aston Villa and does get exploited quite a lot sometimes when we
Yeah,
play
but
them.
he has a say there. He has such a good owners, such a good club, stadium, playing in Europe. He gets to decide what he wants in the best league in the world. Like, I think that's why he's still there, is because if he goes from Villa, it has to be something that he is really, because he has been at PSG, he has been at Arsenal, so he won't get tempted by. He has to, like, if for example we interviewed him, I know his first question would be, do I get to do
Yeah,
what I want?
Aston Villa's quite well run. Like it is
Very.
well run.
I see him, for example, in if Simeone went, like Atletico Madrid, where Spanish is his first language, like him with the Atletico Madrid budget and team, I think he would possibly win La Liga and Champions League. Like, I think with that squad, because Atletico Madrid is basically, their squad is basically Aston Villa on crack. Like, that team is just, but I don't think Simeone will leave. But yeah, I like Emery, but it's just like I said, it's maybe it's a taste thing, but I would like to, when we lose, I need to be explained stuff, but that's maybe just me. So I get why people want Emery, but I won't.
He's one of those managers that I'd be interested to see how he did if he did go to a team that was expected to win the league. Like if he got into Liverpool, would people be expecting Liverpool to win the league this season? Because I think a lot of people thought Slot would. And I think if you look at player per player at the start of the season, they were definitely up there in terms of teams that should be competing to win the league.
Yeah. No, he was expected at PSG and he failed. Or did they win the league? But at least he got
I
the
suppose
sack.
for Aston Villa, could you compare Newcastle to Aston Villa? That I suppose like Aston Villa got top
That's a
four a couple of
brilliant question.
seasons.
That's a
They
brilliant
won the
question.
league because I saw something that this is like a few hours ago, and it was when we went back to say the main story about Areola leaving, and there was Newcastle fans that Newcastle linked to Areola, and there's been a lot of speculation about their
The
manager.
next Bournemouth manager.
Yeah, and do you know what I was thinking that Newcastle fans were saying that they didn't think Areola was was an upgrade, and I
No,
was
I
just
agree.
thinking
I agree.
that
I really like everything in football. Some things is facts, like Mbumo is better than Obertan or Bebe, but some things are like taste. And for my taste, I've always liked and loved Eddie Howe, but I don't want him at United. But I think he's better than Irola, in my opinion, what I have seen. But if someone says not, I agree with them as well. It's just opinion, but. Yeah, but that was a good question, like you said. Who did you say it about? Emery?
no, I was just comparing
Yeah,
Newcastle manager to Aston Villa manager and saying that Newcastle they don't have the budget. They just got promoted from the Championship. People were expecting to get relegated. They stayed up. They didn't really splash crazy cash. They did buy quite well though. Okay, Bruno Guimaraes, I can't remember how much he cost, but the other players
yeah.
they bought weren't insanely expensive. Like they got a few good players, but he had to make do with a lot of I'll
I
say like cheap options
yeah,
in defence, like mediocre options sometimes,
I
and
can
a
I
limited
uh,
squad. He got top. I think he finished fourth when we finished third. They then won the League Cup, and this season they've been very
brilliant.
inconsistent. But I don't think they've got the squad. I think Aston Villa got a bit more depth. But are they
But I
kind of
do.
comparable? That Newcastle have a good season and a bad season. Aston Villa, they've had what I'd say. They've had I suppose an okay season. People, I don't know what people's expectation was, but a bit of a bad run recently. But
But
they
isn't
have got
that
the Champions
proof?
League as well.
Isn't that proof of how hard the the rotation can be for managers and players and clubs and squads? Because you can see that this has happened with Pochettino or Spurs or Ange. It's happened to Pochettino. It's happened to Howe. It's happened to Aston Villa. there's someone else probably, but you have seen so many times that teams are such like on the rise, and then they get Champions League or Europa League too soon. You saw that with West Ham when they got Europa League. So that's kind of what gets me concerned about next year. If we are so lethargic, like, to be honest, the last 2 months we have played shit, like in almost every game, and just got over the line. It was Arsenal, City, the game against Villa was decent, and after that every performance has been pretty poor, even though we have won, and that's one game a week. So I'm a bit concerned about that as well. And also, if we get Carrick, he has no experience with that, except for there is a bit of midweek games in the championship because they play 46 games instead of 38. But that's also a thing that worries me about Carrick, is the experience of that, and traveling, rotating, planning, and stuff like that. So yeah, but just to finish off with Newcastle, what I would do, the same with Arteta. I think Arteta has done a brilliant job at Arsenal, but I've said for like 2 years he has taken them to where he can take them, and I feel the same with Howe, that he has done a brilliant job. But for the next step, I would actually go for 1 or 2 years of Mourinho with Newcastle. If I was Newcastle, I would hire Mourinho now in the summer to make people fear them a little more, to help change how people look, make them harder to beat.
Do you find it odd, actually? Do you find it strange, considering how old Mourinho is? I mean, the way people talk about him, it's like he retired from football a few years ago, and he's still one of these. It seems a bit surprising to me that he doesn't get a bigger club, because he's one of these that you'll see him go to a smaller club and they'll get a trophy, and they've never got a trophy. I honestly think he would have probably won the League Cup with Spurs before he got sacked there. And he just seems to be one of these people that just accrues trophies. He's just got this kind of way of rinsing the best out of a team.
Yes.
I think that's why I said that when Man United were looking after Alex Ferguson, I thought he had I thought he had all the traits Ferguson had, that he was for a lot of people. And I think he was someone that you could see actually that the players he fell out with were players that weren't really good enough, and Man United were not learning. If he'd have joined before the Glazers, Mourinho would have worked quite well. Like, he worked really well under a team that's organised well, under, say, Abramovich at Chelsea, where they did have a better budget. They spent.
Yeah, he was used to winners.
I think with them, with some of the managers we got, I think if you spend, but I think with Mourinho, he wouldn't have authorised the purchase of some of the players he bought, because he knew they weren't going to be. He wasn't a fan of Luke Shaw. This is going back 6, 7 years ago.
Cheers for that, Mourinho. Me and him.
And so I think he identified some issues with players that weren't good enough, and they would have been. And Alex Ferguson did the same thing. Alex Ferguson got players that, and maybe fans rated, but he was like, no, that player just disappeared quite quickly. He didn't really tolerate people he knew weren't going to be long-term success. I did see like Jim's comment here and say this is a really difficult one to comment on. And I would say that under Arteta, we've probably seen. I would say this. That I think under Arteta at Arsenal.
Jim, can I just say this? I agree 1,000. That's the best comment of the day for me. Like, you can't believe how much, like, if he had that time at Arsenal with that money and that budget, would he still, after 6-7 years, have Martinelli, Trossard, Ødegaard, and Gabriel Jesus in the attack? No way. So yeah, I think that's the best comment of the day. Like,
so I would say, if you were going to look at it, say realistically, the time that Manchester United have been, say, trying to win trophies over the last 6 or 7 years, and Arteta as well, we've probably seen two teams that have been picking up an insane amount of points. So Liverpool 1 season, and I think Man City for 2 seasons. So you could probably write off a few seasons, but I would say definitely there's been that. I know Arsenal fans go a bit crazy about Arteta, and I think sometimes you look at it and go, there's like multiple factors. One is they haven't always had the best players, but I think sometimes over the last few years, there's actually been an opportunity, because Man City dropped off loads. Liverpool stepped up last season. Arsenal, they should have won the league title already this season. And I think sometimes you look at Arteta, and Arteta has to take some responsibility for the style of play, the approach. And I think what they've done is they've almost like gone, you know how we were talking and saying that honestly, when Manchester United had the rivalry of Arsenal 98 to 2004,
uh,
we were against a proper team that they had physicality, they
uh,
had skill, finesse, they had unbelievable players. They had Thierry Henry, Bergkamp, Overmars, and they still had like the donkeys like Adams and
oof,
Keown to kick and fight you. They had,
overmasked.
for me, that Arsenal had like a perfect team. We just had a slightly better team. We had
Yeah,
slightly better players. We had slightly better goal. I think we had slightly more finishers in our team. They maybe had an elite goal scorer of Henry, but we had players that could
yeah.
all step
It
up.
was so close. It was so
That's the
close.
thing that was. But I thought the Arsenal team then is levels above the team we got now, and I think sometimes when you look at it, that the Arsenal team they've got, they could play better football than they do, but they rely heavily on like percentages and stale play. And I think sometimes that
Yeah,
if Alex Ferguson was manager of Arsenal, they'd have already wrapped up the league, and they would have
100%.
probably lost one or two more games, but they'd have probably won a lot more. They'd have converted boring draws into wins, and they'd have thrown caution to the wind in a couple of games and maybe been caught out. And I think
Yeah,
Arteta's a bit too negative, a bit too predictable. Like we saw
yeah,
against them, didn't we? We saw when we played at the Emirates that they were good, but once we kind of knew, once we wore them down a little bit, they were quite open, and they still relied on scrappy
yeah.
goals. Like, and
And
their
I
two
also
goals were like they didn't create things, did they?
no, and I also think that you can say a lot a lot about Amram, but in my opinion, so I don't know if anyone else, but I think one of the best games we had under Amram was did we lose against Arsenal the first game of the season, or was it
Yeah,
a
we did.
draw?
We lost because Bondier.
I think that was one of the best games that Amram played. I think we were yeah, I was my jaw was at the floor. Like the way we played against Arsenal that game, we were so good. Like that's the best some of the best football I've seen in years actually at United. But it was I hated that we lost. But so if you see the two games, we had one with Carrick and one with Amram, and we won. No, we didn't win the first, but we absolutely smashed them, had chances, and the wasn't there like a crazy decision against Cunha? Like we should have got the penalty. That was 100% the penalty. There was an error from Bayern, but yeah, the point I'm trying to make is both games this season we have been like the game we lost. We were much better than in every way, and the other game we scored 3 away against them. So no, I agree with you. Like I'm not I'm never scared of when I meet them. Like you say in the early noughties, as you say in England, then I was scared because it was so tight. But now it's just
Yeah,
like even though
I
they are
always used to
leading,
say to people that I had like a list of players I disliked in the 90s. It started with Alan Shearer, and it probably ended with Thierry Henry because they were kind of like the dangers, weren't they? The reason why we didn't win a title in '95 was because of Alan Shearer, and the reason why
yeah,
Arsenal were massively competitive was like Thierry Henry came in and just. I mean, he was such a pain, but
yeah,
such a good player. Like he was probably
we're with different age because my player that I hate the most is probably was isn't now no longer now, but I hated Drogba because he was so good, uh, unplayable at my time when I was about 13, 14, 15 when he was in his prime in Chelsea. So I just remember Henri more as a kid. So you have like a different view, you know. But Drogba was that player for me that was always like a unplayable and yeah, him and Gerard. I couldn't stand his face. Like I've broken so many things at my home, like throwing chairs at the wall. I made holes in the wall. Like I hate Gerard when he made me so. You remember when he kissed the camera?
yeah.
Was the
Was that the
celebration?
game that Man United won 3-2?
Ah, did
There
it?
was
Gerard
I went to
kissed.
one. I went to one match. It was the game Man United won 3-2 against Liverpool, but Man United were winning 2-0. It was one-way traffic, and then I think they got a soft free kick that
Oh,
went in.
they won
And then
3-0
they got
that. They
a
won
penalty.
3-0.
Yeah, I hated that. He used to
It,
just annoy me.
it was the game where Torres, or correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I think it was the game where it wasn't the 4-1 where Vidic got ripped by Torres, so it was a different game. But I just hated that game. We lost like 3-0 to Liverpool, and then Gerrard came and kissed the camera. I promise you,
I think he
I
did it a
took.
couple of times. Luckily, the one I went to, we scored like I think Berbatov scored a hat trick, and we won that one in
Oh
the,
my
like say,
god,
a few
yeah.
minutes to go. But no, I think with this one, that I don't think anyone's going to agree on how certain managers are going to perform in certain circumstances. But maybe I don't know. Maybe with Arsenal, that there's still the pressure's different, isn't it? That I do think it's strange when you look at it and go, all right, how long's Arteta been at Arsenal, and how
6
many
years or
years would you
something.
get? Like, can you imagine being Man City
Or
and
Chelsea,
staying there for 7 years and not winning the trophy?
or
It's
United,
yeah, or United.
or Liverpool.
I think you might be able to at Chelsea if you kept finishing second, you'd probably be okay at Chelsea, but
No, but
you definitely gone at Man City.
the fans have gotten too used to Abramovich, the 2004. I think no manager would have stayed 6 years not winning, because they don't have, like, we have traditions. Liverpool have traditions, but they don't have traditions. Their tradition is literally new money and winning. So they don't have like a play style. This is the Chelsea way. Their way is winning trophies. I don't think a manager would ever survive 6 years in Chelsea, which I respect in a different way. But in Arsenal, just if you time, how many trophies is it a year? You have Premier League, Champions League, or Europa League. You have the two cups, so that's 4 a season. And if you multiply that with 6, you have 24 times. So that's 24 trophies that he hasn't won. No matter how you spin it, that's horrible. And like, we have had the worst run in the club's history, and we have like Ten Hag won 2 or 3, Mourinho
No,
won,
do
Van
you think
Gaal
the funny
won.
thing is we've sacked a few managers that have won trophies, and over the same time period, there's no obligation to win trophies at Arsenal. It seems
Yeah,
that I was just thinking, if you got a squad that's capable of finishing second in the Premier League for several years in a row and being consistently top four, I'm just trying to think actually, have Arsenal actually been in any finals? But I'm just struggling to remember any finals they've been in. And it feels like this season,
this year
yeah, just over the last 4 years,
against
like have they
City,
been in a final?
there was this year against City.
Oh, League Cup.
Yeah, I don't think. No, I don't think it. I think that's the only one, but the chat might know. But yeah, I think you're spot
We've been
on.
in two FA Cup finals, 1-1 over the last few years. We've seen now we got to the Europa League final.
With
Okay,
Solskjaer.
obviously, and you look at the situation at Arsenal and think, uh, what is the record? That was it like an FA Cup win about 6 years ago? Is that what they've won?
Yeah,
So
and he was interim, I think, so it wasn't like his squad. So I see someone made like a joke that he took over with that squad, won a trophy, and now it's been built 6 years to build a squad that can't win trophies. I think that's quite hilarious. But yeah, I'm just
I
going to
remember
answer what.
actually speaking to a couple of, I think it was no, a Spurs fan, and they were talking about Poch hyping up the football at Spurs. And my question was, well, Spurs have not won a trophy, and they're going, yeah, but it's not just about winning trophies. And I was like, well, it definitely is about winning trophies, isn't it? That's kind of the aim of the game. And it's one thing finishing second a few years in a row. You got to get over the line in something.
Yeah, what do you think about this statement? I think there are two different types of managers, or many, but I think a manager, like, I really dislike Arteta, but like, I try always to be not biased. Like, I can say I don't like him, but also I think what he has done, because Arsenal was in the mud, he's changed the whole. So credit to him for that, and the same with Howe, and Howe at Bournemouth as well. But I think they are the managers that like builds a foundation, a culture, stuff. But I don't think they ever will be the managers to get someone over the line. So in my opinion, if I was a Newcastle supporter or Arsenal supporter, I would now say thank you so much. Thank you so much. Like, we could have never done this without you. But if Arsenal, like, imagine Arsenal getting Ancelotti instead of him going to Brazil, and Ancelotti came in. He bought a couple of good attackers now, had brilliant defense with Gabriel Saliba and stuff like that. Like, I just think both of them clubs, I'm not saying that Newcastle is just about to go over the line winning titles, even though they have won, but I just think those two managers have taken the club as far as they can, and I think they both need a change. What do you think about that?
I was just going to say to people, if you can share the stream, it's massively appreciated. If you
Yeah.
can click the like as well,
I have
it's really
forgotten to like.
appreciated.
I have forgotten to like. I'm going to go in and do it now.
What was your manager question again, Helgi? I was just messaging someone.
No, I said that in my opinion, there's different managers. Like, I said that I think you have managers like Pochettino, Howe, maybe Solskjaer, Arteta, who is excellent and turning a club around, getting the culture, getting the vibe. Like, I think they are excellent managers. Like, I think that's even a harder thing to do, but I think they don't have the thing to get you over the line. And I think Newcastle and Arsenal both should, like, for different reasons, change the manager. But I think, like, Arteta and Howe has done, like, insane job at both clubs. But I do think you have those managers who, like, get you over the line, and then you have, like, the builders who stay for a long time. I rarely there are people like Ferguson and stuff like that who is a long-term manager. You could see with Wenger as well. He didn't win much, but he was brilliant at everything else. So I think there's like two different managers. You have the managers who like set the culture and like fixes a club from this to that, because Howe and Arteta have thoroughly changed
I
those
think with someone like
clubs.
Mourinho was someone that would get you over the line, but then there might be
Conte.
carnage like 3 years down the line.
Exactly.
You might need a rebuilder in.
Ancelotti, Conte, Mourinho. There's not like a long-term thing, but there are winners, and I think like in the right moments, I think Newcastle and
Do you think part of the problem with City is that Pep's definitely a winner, definitely someone gets you over the line, but when it comes to a rebuild stage, it's not going that smoothly with Man City. They've got a few issues, and maybe this is the longest. This is probably the longest Pep stayed at a club, isn't it? Where he went to Barcelona, they had a really good team. He won a few trophies
Messi.
there. Went
That guy Messi,
to
he was pretty good, decent player.
they had some decent players, and to be honest, I think a lot of people would have probably had success with if you got most of the Spanish national team and Messi around about the time when they're winning every competition in the world, then yeah, you're going to do well.
And the players you're talking about also weren't bought or scouted; they were in the academy, so they were free as well. It's like Iniesta and Xavi just popping off low key from the academy. Jordi Alba wasn't from the academy. I think he came from Valencia, but yeah, I agree. But I do think that's maybe an unpopular opinion, but I give more credit to Guardiola than most United fans. But I respect everyone's opinion on that because I can see the other side. But I think when he came, he had that David Silva, Aguero, that free-flowing football, and then he switched to Sané and Sterling, that other type of football. And then again, I think he has really impressed me in the sense of he has built different squads, new squads. And I know he's struggling a little bit this season, but he still won a trophy. He's still second in the league, pushing for a league. And this is probably one of his worst years. So yeah, I think Pep is... Yeah,
I've got a question for you then. Okay, we've been talking about different coaches, different managers, etc. And it's kind of interesting conversation because it's almost like I think with when people talk about managers, what they usually do is they rank them top to bottom in terms of which is the best manager in their mind. And I sometimes look at the club and think, if you're Areola, and just say for Areola's sake, now you've got an option here. You've got Manchester United maybe interested. You've got Liverpool possibly interested. You've got Newcastle as well. And if you're Areola, what do you think is the best option for him? Like, what would be the best fit in terms of like short term, but also I think of Areola, you can kind of look at when Newcastle got taken over. I think a lot of people thought they were going to get a manager for a short time, but he stayed a long time. And where do you think could be a good fit? Because I think if you went to Newcastle, my view is right. Obviously, I think Newcastle bad season this season, but you'd imagine that you'd rebuild next season. Potentially, it's going to be difficult for them to get back up to where they were because they've lost Isak's goals. They might lose Tonali, and it's going to be difficult.
It's a good question, because one thing, I don't know if you think this, but I think it's a bit weird situation with Newcastle, because I view them in a certain way, like in FIFA career mode, like this year and the last year, I always choose Newcastle. I play a lot with Newcastle because I think they're like an interesting team to take over with managers. But one thing I'm always reminded about, which Eddie Howe is always reminded about, is we view them maybe bigger and better than they are, in terms of they are really constructed. How do you say it? They are really restricted by PSR. We view them as maybe they have more money than they are really struggling at the moment. So my point would be, there are so many Newcastle supporters who love Howe, and there are many who want to change him, but I think they are so similar. I think if I was his agent, I would say don't go there, because a couple of bad results and they will miss Howe or want another. So if I was his agent, I'm very clear about what I want him. He speaks bad English. He's a brilliant coach. Do you know what club he played for? Rich?
I can't remember now.
He is a club legend and was a captain at Athletic Bilbao, and they need a manager. So Athletic Bilbao plays in the Europa League, and they have brilliant players. They have that Nico Williams, and he's like a legend there. He's loved there, and Spanish is his first language, and they are like competing for top 4. He could get Champions League. So if I was his advisor, I would say Athletic Bilbao. Like, he is a god there. He was a captain. He played right back, left back, centre back, sometimes in central midfield. He played there for a lot of years. He's loved there. They have a very good squad, a very, very, very good squad. So he comes into a side where he's loved. They speak the language. He's a legend there. I think that is a no-brainer for me. So yeah, I would say Athletic Bilbao for me.
Do you think he'd be tempted by a go at, say, a Liverpool job? Do you think Liverpool would even go
Yes.
for him?
I think he would be tempted. I don't think Liverpool would go for him. I think they will stick with Slot. Or what I would do if I was Liverpool, I would say, I would call a guy named Xabi Alonso, and I would say this: "Hi, hey Xabi," and he would say "Hola," and I would say, "Are you down to come to Liverpool?" And he says, "Yes, of course." And I said, "Are you down to drop the 3 at the back?" And if he says yes, I feel that's a no-brainer to bring in Xabi. But or else, like with United, I think the manager market is so poor that I wouldn't just trade Slot, who has won the league. Like people say, he took over Klopp's and whatever. I agree with everyone who says that. But if you look at the list of people who have won the league, like actually won the Premier League, there's only big names. So even how you look at it, winning the Premier League is insane. So unless it's Xabi Alonso or someone, I would stick with Slot. But yeah, I would go for Alonso, I think. But the first question you asked was, would he be tempted to go to Liverpool? And I think every manager would be tempted to go to a big club. So yeah, but I think what he should do is not go from Bournemouth to Real Madrid or Bournemouth to Liverpool. I think he should go from Bournemouth to Athletic Bilbao, who can be like the 4th team behind Athletic, Real Madrid, Barca, and Real Madrid. Come 4th, be very competitive, play in the Champions League, a couple of years there, and then reassess again. I would do that if I was him. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good option. I'm just going to go through like the poll results, and if anyone's got any questions, we'll probably wrap up quite soon. And I think I haven't seen many Man United comments for a while in the chat. So the poll, the question we asked was, is it too early to decide on Carrick? And thanks everybody that voted. It's pretty 50-50. Yes, say 57%, no, say 43%. I think Jim was one person that said he wanted to get Emery and wasn't keen on Carrick. And I think a lot of other people just seem to want to wait a bit of time. But if you say it's not too early to decide, is there anybody that's already decided that they want to keep Michael Carrick? I don't know. For me, I
what
think
was the question? I have to see.
Is it too early to decide whether you should get Carrick in as manager or not?
Okay, because then someone can say, no, I've already decided I don't want them. So
Jim's already decided he wants Emery. He thinks we should get
yeah,
Emery.
okay, because I said it's too early, yes, but in another way. So yeah. Just while I'm at it, the questions. Bilal asked, "What's your favorite fast food?" And I can just say it's like Thai noodles with beef. I love spicy food, so my favorite is like Thai food and pasta, but pasta isn't fast food.
If anyone's got any final Man United questions on any subject, then let us know.
Yeah.
And I think the
What's
thing
this story?
I think with this that maybe we're going to have a different view on, like, say the Chelsea game on the weekend. I think we could have a situation where Man United fans are suddenly relaxed again. We've beaten Chelsea. Maybe we get a draw, and then it's kind of similar. If we get a defeat, then maybe it's going to be. Then I think we'll start seeing more stories about different head coaches.
I won't change my opinion. I do. Yeah, it won't change my opinion on him. Because like if he wins 4-0, I'm not saying give him the job because I want to see the rest of the season. And if he loses, I say, yeah, but what if he wins the next 4-0? So yeah, no matter what happens, I will say I'm still undecided about that. But yeah, like I said yesterday, that game, Rich, I'm really scared for that game because everything like Garnacho return and Rosinho is useless and they've been such a poor form. Like everything about that screams. Yeah, I'm really scared, but I hope we win. But yeah, I would hate to lose that game.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Question: if you could change the result of one United game in the history of the club or this season?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That's a tough one. Do you know there is one game that springs to mind because it annoyed me, and it's not. It might not be like a
not
really
important,
exciting one, but
yeah,
one of the
no.
first ones. If Manchester United could have just beaten West Ham on the last day of the season in 1995, we'd have the first 5 Premier League titles wrapped up. We'd have 5 in a row. Blackburn get no title,
I wasn't
and I
alive.
think if Blackburn get no title, I think Alan Shearer goes, right, I need a title. I'm going to join Man United. And I think Man United just wrap things up for a bit, get a Champions League even quicker. So I would maybe go for that one.
Yeah, okay, I know who. I'm going also for like a crucial game, but yeah, the worst United game in my life, like the worst. Like the City loss at home 6-0, it was horrible. The 4-1 with Torres spinning Vidic was horrible. But the worst game for me was the game where we weren't in the game even, in the most important, and that was the Champions League final against Barcelona when David Villa scored. Like Barcelona that was one of my favorite United sides ever in history, and that Champions League final, we looked like traffic cones with Scholes and Rooney. Like we had a brilliant team, and they just like
They just kicked their ass, to be honest.
Yeah, that was I've never seen. Not never seen, but that is one of the most like finals where a team has been so not in the game. Like, and the funny thing was, we weren't in a bad form. It was just so we were a good side with a good manager in a good form, but it was just Barcelona was unplayable. Like, and we played with Jisung Park, I think. We were, so yeah, it would be that, because that was the worst game of my United life, because I can always take a loss, but when we are like just humiliated, outplayed, like we have no chance, I hated that game so much. And in the Champions League final, so yeah, that was me.
It's disappointing. I think with that one as well, that's frustrating, isn't it? I think with one of them, it felt like one of them we could have got, the other one we definitely couldn't have. Cody's got an interesting question saying, would a behind closed doors match have helped us during the 24-day gap? I was thinking, if we're going to play during the 24-day gap, we should have done one of those lucrative, like friendly matches of somewhere. Maybe because of the political situation in the world, maybe Saudi's ruled out, but maybe Man United should have taken advantage of that early on in the season
100%
when we've
agree.
had so few games.
Yeah, to answer that, KD, yes. I think we should have played 2. I think when we are lacking money so much that we are like firing lunch ladies and doing everything to save, and like every penny counts, why not do like a lucrative against like the Saudi, because you say, oh, because of the politics of what's happening down there, but you can meet
I'm just
that.
saying for safety, but you could do it, but you could do it somewhere else. But
Yeah,
I
that's my
would say
point.
the
So
principle's the same, isn't it? There's other
yeah,
teams in our
imagine us all
situation
traveling to the
we could play.
US to Miami, like a hot, and play against David Beckham's team. Going to a hot, like it would be so refreshing. We would get money. Like, I don't see why we didn't do that. So yeah, Katie, great
You don't
question.
have to put out the first team either. It could be an opportunity to get some minutes into players coming back. So
Yeah,
I think like a friendly wouldn't have been the worst case scenario. I think a lot of people think about injuries, but as long as you're playing in a proper
yeah,
pitch rather than some have a properly organised friendly, because some that it did have the feeling of, when you have an international break and you come back and everybody looks really rusty. It felt like that on a different level, and by the time we kind of realised we were actually in a football match, Leeds had already won the game, and
yeah,
it felt a bit like that we sometimes have that after international break, but with an
yeah.
international break plus also I think Leeds might have played a cup game, so Leeds might have
They
had
did,
a game
they
win
did,
that.
and like, when you're at work and stuff, like,
I'm going to say this. This is making me laugh. Like, Cody, you should have posted this when Jim was here to defend his point. But so you're getting in there now. Jim's not here to defend it. I will let him know later. But he
which,
says,
yeah, say it.
no. I'll read the comment and I'll
Yeah,
say next time Jim's in the comments, he can reply. He says Emery looks good about pressure, not managing top side. I say Emery would flop. He thinks. I think. Well, I suppose Emery. I don't know if he flopped at Arsenal. I can't remember where he finished in the league now.
yeah,
But he
but
says Emery's results are not sustainable with the squad. It won't work. But again, Cody, like he should have said this when Jim was here. Jim would have definitely.
but you know what's funny about that comment is that that's one thing, for example, I love about music and football is like interpretation, because the comment with Jim, and I said comment of the day, I 100% agree that he would have won with Arsenal. The funny thing is, I also agree with KD, and it's like, how can both of those things be true at the same time? And I say that because we don't know if he would have won if he stayed the same as Arteta. But I agree with Jim's, like, he would have won. I think so. But at the same time, I also agree with Katie that I don't think he works at
Might be a
a
factor.
top club. So I see like the polar opposite. But I agree with
Do you
both.
think with football, we talked about sort of individual teams and how they play, how they set up, etc. And I think with Aston Villa, definitely over the last few years, they have been a bit vulnerable with their high line. And maybe when you go back to say 2.5 years, maybe Marcus Rashford was exploiting that when we came back from a 2-0 down at halftime. We won the game 3-2. And we had definitely players like Marcus Rashford to thank for that, because he was like terrorizing their back line. And then this season, we probably outplayed them, but they scored a couple of crazy goals. And I just feel that Man United's team has always matched up quite well with Aston Villa. Like our strengths in terms of like counter attack, fast break, exploited the space they left. And I think it's one of those things that I don't always have a high opinion of Aston Villa. Because, no, I don't. I know actually I know a lot of Aston Villa fans and they're good guys. But I've always thought that Manchester United just match up well with Aston Villa over the years, and maybe more so recently because of Emery's style. But I think it's
but
also.
I think that's a good take, because I think even going back when we signed Ashley Young, they played 4-4-2 with two strikers, with Agbonlahor and the Norwegian John Carew. So I think you're spot on there. Actually, I've never thought of it, but I think they always kind of, in my era at least, be like a wish version of United, kind of.
Did you always feel like also that there always used to be teams in the Premier League that are massive problems? Like we always used to struggle with a Southampton team, but we always used to beat Aston Villa, and even though Aston Villa were a better team. And I think with me, the reason why I'm not so keen on Emery, it's not necessarily a problem with Emery's style. I think it's because when I watch Manchester United against Emery, I see us exploiting a weakness, and I don't see Aston Villa correcting that issue. And I just think
Good
that
point.
it might be
Good
something
point.
that's becomes that it's just a worry I've got.
Yeah,
Where
good point.
it's just like if you think, well, it might work really well. Like Cody's saying, it might work really well against a lot of teams, but you kind of have to be,
Yeah, and also, like I said earlier in the show, that I've kind of, when we are linked to managers and players now, I've changed my mind a little bit about not getting managers that works and have been successful in good, well-driven clubs. So players that have been good, like for example Sancho or Anthony, like well-driven clubs, they are perfect for the system. They have a manager who loves that system, who has been there a long time, and the same with Emery, the same with IRAOLA. Like, I want a manager who has done good in a shit club, if you get what I mean, like a shitty driven club that they don't get the players that they want. I would rather, and the same for players. Like, I would more love to see us bring a player that, like for example, West Ham is a shambles of a club. Like, I would much rather go get a player for Paqueta, for example, when he was firing, like a player who stands out in a club that is shit and doesn't play his formation, that changes managers all the time, and the player still is good. I would rather get that, than get managers from well-driven clubs like Emery. He gets everything he wants. The sporting directors, the scouts, like the setup at Aston Villa is amazing, and he won't get that at United. He will have the opinion of Vivel and Wilcox and Barada and the scouts, and I think from now on I'm very wary of getting managers and players from well-driven clubs. I don't know what the chat think about that, but that's just a thing I've thought about the last months. Like, because if they have everything to succeed, like in Dortmund with Sancho, for example, like the fans love him. He doesn't have to work. The club lets him come late to training because it's the star boy. He plays his favorite position with a manager who plays the same formation and a team that's well drilled in the last 10 years. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like getting players and managers from well-driven clubs? Because I think we are not well-driven, and I would,
I think sometimes it is like that where people look at, let's say, I've said this when I've been on a guest on other channels, and you talk about your team and you talk about Manchester United versus another team, and if a team's playing well, everybody rates the players, and everybody talks about that.
Yes.
So it's almost like a results-based business. So if Bournemouth are playing well, everybody will rate all their players and go, look, oh, Bournemouth are a great team. And if a team's playing badly, it's like when we did a match review last night. You can play badly and you can have a poor season. And this is why I was getting frustrated last year with transfer talk, because people would look at us linked to certain players and look at the team they're playing in and go, why are we buying? No, I did actually hear saying, why are we buying Mbeumo? Look where Brentford are in the league. I think Brentford were doing fine. But people also looked at Cunha and say, "Oh, we're buying players from relegation quality teams," and I was like, "Yeah, but he's head and shoulders above the rest of the team." And you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
look up at the top of the league and look at teams that were doing better, and maybe like say, for example, if I looked at the league table now, I could look at Chelsea and say, okay, Chelsea are like being up and around Champions League positions, but I think half their team I wouldn't want. There's a few players I
yeah.
take, but a lot of their team I wouldn't really rate. And you look at teams near the bottom of the league, and genuinely, I've said apart from Burnley, nothing offensive towards Burnley, but West Ham, I'd have taken Paqueta, I'd have taken Bowen, but he'll never leave, and
Somerville. I would
Fernandez
have
as
taken
well.
I would have taken Somerville, for example, ahead of Garnacho, ahead of Bino Gittens. I would have taken Neto ahead. I've always wanted Neto, so I'm pretty weak for him, so I'm not going to say that. But I would have taken Somerville ahead of Estevao. Oh, that's pretty close. But yeah, I get your.
They got good players, haven't they? Like they've got, I think West Ham have got more players I think would fit in our team possibly than Chelsea,
Yeah,
although obviously they're a much
and
worse team.
they are horribly run club. So that says to me, if a player does good in that club, he would do good in United. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if we get like a Brighton player, like I don't know, like a good example, you know, Schneiderlin.
Yeah,
He was like underneath Falcao and Van Persie and the amazing. He was one of the signings I was most excited about in my after Ferguson, because I think we lacked that number 6, and he was insane in Southampton and the France team. But then you get to United and we don't play his system to his strength, and he looked awful. So we have seen this a lot of times, like get players who stand out in a badly run club. That sounds weird, but yeah, I would want Paqueta. Always stood out, even though West Ham had 17 different managers and played different formations. Paqueta was always good, even though they were in the relegation team. So yeah, that's just me.
I think sometimes also I looked at Ndiaye at Everton as an attacking player, and people will look at his stats, but I also say he's playing for Everton, and Everton will be pushed into a boring low block a lot of the time. So their attacking players won't have the freedom that they might do at a Manchester United, or they won't be able to get the sort of numbers they would at a different team. And so I think sometimes people look at stats a bit too much. It's a bit like
Yeah.
saying if you're a striker playing for one of the bottom teams, then you can't just look at goals because you might just be in a low block for like 80 minutes. So you've got to look at what they do as well.
Yes.
It is
very good point.
so
I
Mr.
agree.
B saying we're draw FC at the moment, unfortunately. Shall we do final questions, Helgi, and
Yeah.
see if people got any?
I just
If
wanted
anyone's got
to.
any
Yeah, I
questions,
just wanted to pick up on the point you said there about the stats. If you see Cunha and Mbumo, I think in teams that, because you were spot on with your point, like in a worse team, you are the main man. So first of all, everyone sees to you as the solution, so you get the ball more often. So that's one point. So that's often why if you get a Cunha, why isn't he doing the same that he is doing in Wolves? Well, first of all, when Bruno gets the ball, he wants to pass to Sesko, he wants to pass to Mbumo, to Ahmad. It's not only like Cunha all of the time. So, and that goes for Mbumo, that goes for everyone. So that's one point. Also, point two, like you say, you don't have that much of the ball and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree that sometimes also, like you say, I've never like people rarely discuss what you said there about, especially about attackers, because they're always like so focused on numbers. But like you say, like there might be a good striker in a team where he has only scored 10, but at United he will score a lot more because they have a lot more chances. So I agree with you there. There's a lot more than just the stats, and that's a good point. So yeah, I 100% agree. I see that, by the way, in Evan Nilsson. I'm super fan of him as well, and Krupi.
he looks pretty good
both
actually.
both the Bournemouth strikers, I would take both of them.
Yeah, no, you're also then like making a list saying that let's not take players from a well-run club. And if you
Yeah.
look at like say Krupi, people have mentioned Scott, and then you've got Evan Nielsen, and you've got Senesi. That's like half the team, isn't it? I remember having similar conversations where you think, are we just gonna? Is it gonna be cheaper to buy the team? Like when we started buying players from Ajax, I was thinking Ajax might be the perfect example of all the players left, and only Frankie de Jong really
Yep.
achieved what the
Exactly.
level people were
Exactly.
expecting. Everybody else underperformed, and this is multiple players of multiple leagues, and none of it really worked out.
What is the record actually of Bournemouth players? And because if you see the players that like Semenyo hit the ground running, how did it good like with Newcastle? I think most of them has actually done pretty good. The players that have gone, Kirkus hasn't been good, and Liverpool. I don't think the centre back has played much in PSG. Yeah, so it's a bit hit and miss. Mr. B
Yeah,
said,
I
if it's a
I did
what
mention to
does
Jim and say that he should get back in here and defend Emery. That yeah, Mr. B, if you got like any Man United manager
it's a
questions at the moment, I'm guessing
it's a chunky Kit Kat. Yeah, it's a chunky Kit Kat. So bring in your craziest questions. It can be football or not, but yeah.
But no, we'll definitely be I think there's going to be more and more news stories coming out. I did say at this point in time for football, there seems to be a story where at the moment there's loads and loads of little stories, and that's why I kind of linked everything that was to do with Bournemouth in one
Yeah, it was
stream,
nice.
because I think there's going to be. Do you know what I saw earlier today as well? That apparently next week Manchester United are supposed to be going to Germany in discussions with probably Nagelsmann. I think it's probably true, and I think what Man United are going to do is like they're going to discuss with every single manager, then make a decision. So I think what Better says and what you said, I think is going to happen. I think Manchester United are just looking at this point as like Carrick's in there. He's got a chance. He's not ruled out or ruled in, but United are just going to see every option. It's the same as like
I hope
what
so.
midfielder we're going to buy. Like
I,
we might have a list of midfielders, but some of them won't want to come. And I've got a slightly separate question. Do you think that the midfield targets we're looking at, do you think it changes depending on whether we keep Michael Carrick or we go for someone different? Like, do you think if they keep Michael
wow,
Carrick, they
good
have
question.
no, this is our 1 to 5
Let,
list of top players,
can
but
you answer it first, because I need to have a think about it, because that was a really good question. So just answer what you think, and I just take
so
1 minute.
I would say I think it might do that if you were going to have an interview with Michael Carrick and say, right, we're looking at getting a few players in. Anderson's clearly the top target, whoever comes in, but there might be some players like Hackney or Gomez where maybe Man United are relaxed about which ones they choose. And if Michael Carrick's got a strong case for why, based on what we're doing, he thinks Hackney's worth it, maybe they go for, maybe he gets a little. I don't think he gets a say in terms of making the decision, but I think he's might have I think it might change things slightly. I don't think it'll make a massive difference, but it might make a difference in terms of one or two potential signings. I think clearly Man United are almost. It looks a bit like most of the decisions going to be above the head coach level, and the head coach can have some say, but I don't think he's going to be able to have any sort of veto. So I think a lot of it will come down to Vivell, but maybe with Carrick, the best thing he could do really is to, if he finished third, I think he's going to have more say in terms of like they will get a bit of respect. I know people said we were already quite good, but if we start dropping off badly, then maybe they'll be thinking about, okay, well, we're going to put this team together, because I honestly believe that if Carrick stays next season, it doesn't mean he's going to be there the year after. I think United will be continually evaluating. And I
I
think if
agree.
you sign a player,
That's what I said.
yeah,
That I agree with the club if they say, they won't say it, of course, but yeah, I agree that if we don't get like Luis Enrique and Ancelotti or Conte, like I said, like don't just go for another manager, just keep him for another year and then reassess. So yeah, I agree with that.
Do you think also, if you're looking at keeping Carrick, you can keep Carrick for 1 year. Like you can give him a 2-year deal, but it's not going to be that expensive to replace him after 1 year. Whereas if you go down the wrong route with signings, you've got that player for 5 years, or potentially you got him for a couple of years where you don't want him, and
Yeah,
it's going to be more expensive. So I think it might be that Michael Carrick, if Michael Carrick stays, or if we get a different head coach, I think that the signings will be largely the same.
yeah, I've found out what I think now, and yeah, I agree with you that I think the answer is yes and no. I think there are some players that don't change. So, for example, if Ancelotti came in, or Luis Enrique came in, or Carrick, or everyone wants Anderson. So I don't think everyone wants Tonali, everyone wants Bruno, because they are good in every. They are just ready-made players, class players in every formation. So I don't think those will change. But like you said, I think there will be slight changes. So I think yes and no. I don't think the transfer will. There are some players that are just the club want it. It makes sense. They are good. They can play. Uh, like don't bring a wing back, of course. Like, but a central midfielder like Anderson or Tonali, they can play in every formation and partner alone. Or so yeah, I think I agree with you that I think it will change on not the A-list targets, but I think that the B-list targets will change. Like I think some want Hackney, some want Joao Gomez, some want different types of those players, but I do think everyone wants the good ones. But it is a good question. What do the chat think about that?
So the question was, what do you think the transfer targets get affected by who's head coach? So I'll look
Yeah,
through the chat.
I think they like have a plan, but also, but that's the way it should be. I think I don't think that the manager should choose everything, but I don't think he should not have a say as well, in my opinion. So I think that's, if they do it that way, I think it's right, because yeah.
Yeah, I don't see any replies. I don't see anyone like Cody. Do you agree or disagree? I don't. I won't bother talking about Liverpool. No one cares about Liverpool.
Can I just go pee for half a minute, real quick? I
Yeah,
really.
yeah. If anyone's got, if people are engaged, it might wrap up quite soon. But yeah, go for that. I'll just
Yeah,
see if I
I
can get
just go
some
for pee,
response.
and then when I came back, if there's like no questions or whatever. But yeah,
Uh,
people, come on,
yeah,
ask crazy
the
questions.
question was, do you think that Manchester United's transfer targets changes based on whether they stick with Carrick or whether they change and go for a different manager? So if they got Nagelsmann or they got Carrick, would the transfer targets change, or do you think they'd largely be the same? That's the question. So just let us know, like if Carrick's head coach or Nagelsmann's head coach or Areola's head coach, do Manchester United sign different players, or do they just sign the same players regardless? Yeah, we answered that question 20 minutes ago. We talked about that for a while.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, that was good. My God.
Okay, Stephanie says if it's a top manager, might change, but they're saying basically the hierarchy wants a head coach, so suggesting that the decision's not given, like they're just there to coach, not make decisions, I think.
Yeah, I think we deserve better kind of alluded to that last night, and I wasn't disagreeing because he was saying about Luis Enrique that he doesn't think it's a good fit, which I disagree with, but I also kind of agree with because you never know. I don't know the future, but I see his point that Emery, Luis Enrique won't work under this ownership and yada yada. But I also think a top manager could do it. So yeah, I see both sides on that actually. But yeah, we can just wrap it up now. It wasn't anyone questions.
Yeah, I think there's no more questions.
Nobody wants to ask anything.
I know Helgi's like wanted to answer a question, but no. Big up to people watching. I think Mr. B is watching Independence Day for the 1000th time. If you want to rewatch any previous streams I've done to help me get back to saying, we could ask Goldbridge and Neville. I don't know. I think, well, Goldbridge and Neville, obviously, they're probably the biggest network now, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's the aim, Helgi. That's the dream. I did say to people that when people look at the channel, I just see the bigger picture and think like where we're going to be in like a month's time. So even like a week's time, we've gone up about 50 subscribers, I believe, in like the last week, which is fantastic. And give it like a month as well. I think there'll be big improvements. And
do you know,
get involved. That's what I'll say.
And share. That's so important. But do you know like TikTok? Because even though I'm younger than you, I think even you know how TikTok works better than me. So I'm going to ask a question, which makes me seem like a dinosaur. But like, if you post a video there, is it possible to do like swipe up and stuff, or like click this link and redirect? Or
I think it's not. I think I'll say that. But I think with TikTok, it's very much doesn't like you trying to divert people away to say YouTube. Like that
that
most
makes
platforms,
sense.
it's like if you upload a TikTok video on YouTube, YouTube will not be happy. I'm not going to piss off YouTube at this point in time. So
Yeah.
but one thing I have been doing is I've been uploading things on TikTok and then maybe doing a YouTube short of similar kind of line. But also, one thing I did this morning was if people want to get involved behind the scenes, I do keep saying this, like the Discord is really well organized. There's a section there for transfer news, for football chat, for like fantasy football. There's like a section there for music as well. There's literally lots of places there to share information. And I did keep saying this, that if people got things they want to talk about, let me know. No one does, but if you wanted to do that, you could let me know. And when you're looking at like the options, then like say for TikTok, it's part of the community. The Facebook group is part of the community because this is kind of like fan driven. So if people have got some things regarding this one, Stephanie said it's a shame not on social media, but everyone in my pub will be subscribing as soon to us. If you got football fans, Manchester United fans, Stephanie, because a lot of people that found the channel did say to me in the past, they did say, we're glad we found it because it's kind of different and it was really good and they enjoyed it. Those people are really difficult to find because they're just not on social media platforms. So if you share the stream I know people keep, and I say this, but if you share the stream, it essentially just posts it in front of people that are browsing either like Twitter, or they're looking on Instagram, or they're looking on Facebook, and someone will just see it, watch a little bit, and then, if someone watches and they don't like it, you can't do anything about it. But if someone tunes in and enjoys it and gets involved in the discussion, it's how the community grows. It just took a long, long time, and I'm thinking that because we got, like, TikTok is a slightly different group. They might not watch YouTube, but it might be a way of actually gradually, like, getting people on there, and actually a place for us to communicate as well, which is quite fun. And I think, again, we're trying to make football discussion fun and enjoyable and approachable, and someone can come in and get involved. And I've said that, the door's open, and people just have to step through it if they want to. If they want to not do that, that's fine. But a lot of the criticisms I see of other channels is people get ignored. People ignore your comments. They don't. They, effectively just lecture you. And if you don't like that, then this is an opportunity to change it, and this channel can just get bigger, and then more people
Yeah.
can get involved. I
Can I,
mean, people remember that when we had 10,000 subscribers and the summer transfer windows where there's like over 100 people watching every stream, everybody was still getting into, we were still interacting with everybody, we are still getting people's comments, etc. So it wasn't, it's not going to change. It's just it's going to take a little bit of time to get back up there, unfortunately.
can I say something from the outside perspective, even though I'm inside now? That sounds weird, but yeah, on what you're saying there, that I think you and your biggest channel, no, you and your channel, your biggest strength is also your biggest weakness. And what I mean by that is, why this is my favorite channel is because this is like when I talk to my boys in real life. It's not up, it's not down, it's chill, it's respectable if we disagree. And everyone in the chat is so nice, and we all have different opinions, but it's so normal, if you would say. And that's your biggest strength, but also the biggest weakness, in terms of if you were screaming like "Carrick out," or like, you would get more engagement and sharing. So I think, like, you being such a nice, respectful, good human being is like the biggest strength, and why everyone in this chat is here. But I also think that doesn't make for attention, if you get what I mean. So I just, like, this is the type of channel that will never grow like a rocket up, but I think it will like steadily grow and become again the same as it was. Like, a lot of people loving this channel. Like, you saw how when you were back, like, everyone was like, there are literally thousands of United channels on YouTube, and everyone was like, oh, I miss this so much, I miss this so much. And yeah, that's really hard to do. So yeah, I think this is not like you screaming "Carrick out" or something and getting like 1,000 subs in a day. I think it will steadily grow with a lot of people who think highly about you, and like, I think highly about the chat. And I think there's so many intelligent people in the chat, and no one screams, no one is rude. So I think that's the biggest like strength of this channel. So yeah, that's me looking outside in, like, that's why I love this channel. But also, like, attention is, in this day and age. So yeah, that's my
Yeah,
thoughts
I
of
think
it.
it'll get there. I'm just saying to people that
100%.
I think people just don't realize how much it helps where people share, because I think that when people do that, everything will
Yeah.
explode. Like people saying, like Cody, like the Discord, the Facebook group. Yeah. How many subscribers would you say were non-Man United fans? I would probably say 10% maybe, because I think the massive growth was during Manchester United transfer news and stories, and I think behind the scenes there was probably at least like quite a few hundred that were other fans of football, of other channels, of other teams that got involved. Put it this way: Mr. B is a Brentford fan, and Mr. B is a
Cool.
respected member of the community.
Cool.
And you can make examples that when Luca gets in the comments, he's an Arsenal fan. Doug, who's like was in the last few streams, he's watching his team tonight. He's a Liverpool fan. He's a moderator. So I've got moderators that support different teams, because they've been supporting the channel for multiple years, I know and respect these guys. And so I would say it's more than you think, Stephanie, to be honest. Actually, it's Man United based, but there's lots of fans that come in because they want to talk about the games that their teams play against us as well. Their teams play in the same competition, and they just like the community. So maybe more than you think.
Yeah,
Maybe not many Newcastle fans after what I said about.
Also now, like, obviously you know Jarvis. Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, no. But yeah, we should. No, we should.
I'll wrap up and say thanks, everybody. We will catch you tomorrow, probably 1 p.m. But tomorrow, look at the Yeah, no, he was on as well. He was on the channel is I'm trying to think. Channel is what's it called now? Oh, I can't remember the name now, but it's something Bridge Nation, I think. Yeah. So yeah, there is a few people I can try and reconnect with. It's just going to take a lot of time, a lot of memory. But thanks for being in the comments. Thank you, Helgi. And we will catch you guys tomorrow.
It's just a bloody cat who's... I love her, but yeah, I just want to also say thanks to the chat. I love the chat so much, and yeah, thank you for having me on again. And make sure, like he said, we don't want to be repeating ourselves, but we do want to repeat ourselves. Like, no one gets to know about this channel if you don't share it in either way. So please share, tell people about it. If you have friends in real life, tell them about. I have United fans in real life, and I told everyone about this channel, but none of them are like, they're like, I don't care about that. I don't watch fan channels. And I'm like, that's fair, but at least try to like spread the word or social media in real life. And I love everyone in the chat is so nice, smart, intelligent. So yeah, thanks again for a beautiful show, and thanks for Rich for having me on.
Cheers, guys, and we will be live again tomorrow. I'm not sure 100% what time, but 1 p.m. is a good bet for the early show. And please, if you're new, subscribe. Also, click the notification bell. Just look out for things. The socials are pinned at the top for the TikTok channel and other groups as well. So get involved in the community, and we will see you guys